Chapter 1447. Fortunately, Yi Xian looked unscathed on the outside. His face was calm, and there was even a faint smile on his face. It was as if the attack from the four immortals was nothing more than an itch to him. Deliberately mystifying and calm, Yi Xian fully interpreted the true meaning of these words. Even the four elders and Tongming cult master looked at Yi Xian with fear in their eyes. "Who the hell are you?" The four elders spoke almost at the same time. Their eyes were solemn to the extreme. Yi Xian was clearly just a Dao-querying third-realm cultivator, but he had easily received the joint attack of four immortals. One had to know that Tongming cult's great elder was in existence who had opened the second gate of heaven. This was simply unbelievable to the four elders. It was no wonder that the four elders were shocked. They were not inexperienced and naturally knew that there were heaven-defying monsters who could go against immortals in the Dao-querying third realm. However, Yi Xian's current combat strength had already exceeded what a heaven-defying monster should have. He had received the joint attack of four immortals. This could no longer be described as a heaven-defying monster, because even a heaven-defying monster might not be able to receive the joint attack of four immortals. Monster. Strange. Strange. Indescribable. The four elders simply did not know what words to use to evaluate Yi Xian. They were absolutely certain of one thing. Even the strongest of all time might not have such terrifying combat strength in the Dao-querying third realm before they had reached Dao-querying third realm. The four elders of Tongming cult are only SOSO. Even though Yi Xian's inner palace was injured and his soul was about to shatter, he still smiled faintly and spoke with contempt. It was as if he really did not put the four elders of Tongming cult in his eyes. "Fellow Taoist, you are too arrogant." Tongming cult's great elder roared coldly. His face was filled with anger. However, if one listened carefully, they would discover that he was referring to Yi Xian as fellow Taoist. This also proved that Yi Xian's combat strength had gained their recognition, and they treated Yi Xian as a peer. "Come, let this Yi see the capabilities of the four of you. As the saying goes, if you don't seek death, you won't die." At this moment, Yi Xian was on the path of seeking death. He had already suffered a lot of injuries. If the four great elders were to attack him with all their strength, then Yi Xian would definitely be in danger. However, Yi Xian was a very smart person. He believed in his own judgment, and believed that the four great elders wouldn't fight with him. Therefore, he wasn't courting death. He was just bluffing to intimidate the entire dark church. Yi Daoyou's cultivation base is Tongtian. Today, the four of us will have a taste of it. Transcendence cult's great elder roared. Divine might erupted from his body. The other three great elders wore solemn expressions as they unleashed their immortal realm auras. It couldn't be right? The smile on Yi Xian's face froze. He suddenly regretted it. Had he gone overboard with his bluff? Did these four idiots really want to fight with him? Yi Xian seemed calm as he looked at the killing intent emitted by the four great elders of the Nether sect. However, his heart was as heavy as a mountain. He knew what kind of situation he was in. He definitely wasn't a match for the four great immortals. Fortunately, at this critical moment, Transcendence Cult Master's voice rang out. "Stop!" Transcendence Cult Master waved his hand, startling the four great elders. Then they reluctantly retreated. "Yi Daoyou's cultivation base is Tongtian. This sect master admires you. With fellow Taoist cultivation base, fellow Taoists can go anywhere in the northern star field." Transcendence Cult Master praised. However, his eyes were scrutinizing Yi Xian. A strange light flashed through his eyes as he said, "However, Yi Daoyou established the celestial court. This is making an enemy of the three religions of the northern star field. Moreover, you killed the envoys of the three religions, and the disciple that I have cultivated for many years. Fellow Taoist, shouldn't you give me an explanation?" "Oh," Yi Xian smiled and said, "What explanation does fellow Taoist Transcendence want? Yi Daoyou, a straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. Although your cultivation base is Tongtian, and you can fight an immortal without losing, you establishing the celestial court is making an enemy of the three religions of the northern star field. Even if this sect master doesn't kill you, the other two religions won't let you go. This sect master will be frank. The celestial court formed by the combination of the six religions is nothing more than a motley crew. With fellow Taoist cultivation base, why do you need to establish your own religion? As long as Yi Daoyu is willing, you can join my transcendence cult. This sect master will give you the position of vice sect master. At that time, in the entire transcendence cult, fellow Taoists will be second only to me. Wouldn't this resolve the conflict between fellow Taoist and the three religions of the Northern Star Field? Roping them in, they were blatantly roping them in. The price offered by Sect Master Transcendence was extremely high. It was so high that the four elders' expressions changed. They wanted to stop him, but when they saw Sect Master Transcendence's sharp gaze, they could only swallow their words. Many thanks for fellow Taoist Transcendence's offer. Unfortunately, I would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. This he can only accept fellow Taoist's kindness. Yi Xian smiled faintly. As Yi Xian's words fell, sounds of surprise could be heard from all directions. Many Transcendence cult disciples had been watching from afar. Naturally, they also heard the conversation between Yi Xian and Sect Master Transcendence. Is this person crazy? He doesn't even want the position of Vice Sect Master? He's dead for sure. He doesn't know how to appreciate kindness. I'm afraid he won't be able to walk out of my Transcendence cult alive today. All kinds of discussions could be heard. Even the four elders present had a gloomy expression, especially the first elder of Transcendence cult. The first elder had always coveted the position of Vice Sect Master. However, according to Sect Master Transcendence's words, only when the first elder opened the third gate of heaven would he be qualified to become the Vice Sect Master. This also showed that Sect Master Transcendence believed that Yi Xian was stronger than him. How could the first elder not be angry? Yi Daoyu, are you rejecting this Sect Master? Sect Master Transcendence was in existence who had opened the third gate of heaven and was gradually approaching the fourth. He was an extremely overbearing person. He was also a person who kept his word. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become the Sect Master of a cult. In his eyes, Yi Xian's rejection was a challenge to his dignity. Even if he valued Yi Xian's talent and combat strength, a disobedient person who couldn't be used by him didn't deserve to live. An indescribable killing intent silently grew. The dark clouds in the sky roiled slightly. Sect Master Transcendence's killing intent caused the weather to change. Everyone could sense his terrifying killing intent towards Yi Xian. You want to kill me? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. You're only at the third stage of the Dao Querying Realm, yet you're able to fight an immortal and remain undefeated. With your talent, you'll be an unparalleled genius even in the Grand Central Domain, let alone the North Star Domain. Unfortunately, a genius is just a genius. The Primal Chaos 12 periods have never lacked geniuses. A genius who hasn't matured is no different from an ant. If this Sect Master wants to kill you, you definitely won't be able to live. Sect Master Transcendence said coldly. Haha. Yi Xian laughed. He looked mockingly at Sect Master Transcendence and said, there are many people who want to kill me. Those people who wanted to kill me all said the same thing. You're not the first and you won't be the last. Unfortunately, those who wanted to kill me all died in my hands. I think you won't be an exception. Yi Tian, I admire your ability to talk big. Unfortunately, you still have to die, because I've already given you a chance. Boom! Tong Tian pierced through the ground, and a dark light filled the sky. 3 gates of heaven appeared behind Sect Master Transcendence, sealing everything within thousands of miles. Even a fly couldn't fly out of this cage. Chapter 1448. In such a dangerous situation, Yi Xian actually clapped his hands and smiled. He didn't show the slightest bit of fear. Instead, he looked at Tong Ming with a playful attitude, as expected of someone who opened the third heaven gate. Just your aura alone is unparalleled. However, do you think you can kill me? Boom! The heaven-burying divine art was unpredictable. It also contained the power of time and space. Yi Xian's entire body became illusory, as if he didn't exist in this world. Without absolute confidence, Yi Xian wouldn't take the risk. Since he dared to come to Tongming cult alone, he naturally had his own trump cards. The heaven-burying art was originally a combination of many supreme techniques, and it was filled with the profound mysteries of space and time. Although the heaven-burying art wasn't perfect, after many years of research, Yi Xian was already able to use the heaven-burying art to activate the profound mysteries of space and time within it. The profound of time and space might not be the strongest in battle, but it was definitely second to none when it came to concealment and escape. At this moment, Yi Xian activated the profound of time and space in the heaven-burying divine art, causing Tongming cult master's killing intent to be unable to lock onto him. Tongming cult master's expression changed slightly. He actually couldn't sense Yi Xian's aura. This caused his heart to tremble and his brows to furrow. Yi Xian was becoming more and more mysterious in his eyes. Not only was his combat strength strange and terrifying, but he also couldn't see through the depths of the techniques he was using. Dao friend Tongming, I advise you not to make a move. You can't kill me. If you really want to fight with me, then wait until I step into the immortal realm. At that time, I'll ask Dao friend for advice. However, at that time, your Tongming cult's fate will be. Yi Xian said indifferently. He only finished half of his sentence and smiled faintly. The threat in his words was self-evident. You? Tongming's face was ashen, as the aura around his body suddenly leaked out. His pair of deathly white eyes stared sinisterly at Yi Xian. In the end, he could only let out a long sigh as the killing intent on his body dissipated. It wasn't that Tongming didn't want to kill Yi Xian. Instead, he discovered that he couldn't lock onto Yi Xian with his aura. If he couldn't kill Yi Xian today, then when Yi Xian stepped into the immortal realm, it would be a great calamity for Tongming cult. Tongming cult was one of the 3 tyrants of the North region. An Undying wasn't much of a threat to them. Even if they wanted to kill an Undying, it wasn't much. The 4 great demons were a good example. However, the waters of the immortal realm were too deep. The 4 demons and Yi Xian could not be lumped together. Yi Xian was able to go against the immortal realm when he was only at the Dao querying realm. He was even able to fight evenly with the 4 great elders of Tongming cult. If Yi Xian stepped into the immortal realm, how terrifying would he be? If they were to become enemies with such a terrifying character, even a colossus like Tongming cult would have a headache. Therefore, Tongming sect master gave up on killing Yi Xian after thinking about it. Moreover, taking a step back, Yi Xian and his celestial court would be destroyed sooner or later. The other 2 religions wouldn't let him go either. Why should Tongming sect master take the lead? Since Yi Daoyu isn't willing to join my Tongming cult, then this sect master won't force you. However, you killed this sect master's disciple. This is a challenge to the dignity of my Tongming cult. My Tongming cult will settle this debt sooner or later. You can leave now. Tongming sect master coldly said. Leave. Yi Xian smiled faintly. Then, he looked at Tongming sect master mysteriously and said, Sect master, aren't you curious about why I'm visiting your cult? Do you think I'm only here to show off my cultivation? Isn't that the case? Tongming sect master was slightly stunned. He really thought that Yi Xian was only here to show off his cultivation, so that Tongming cult wouldn't act rashly. However, when he saw the smile on Yi Xian's face, Tongming sect master's heart shook. He felt that things weren't that simple. Actually, I'm here today to tell sect master a huge secret in exchange for Tongming cult to give up on destroying my celestial court. Yi Xian said solemnly. Ha ha ha. Tongming sect master sneered when he heard Yi Xian's words. He looked at Yi Xian with disdain. Yi Daoyu, I've already guessed that you're here for this purpose. However, you don't need to say anything more. First you killed my emissary, then my holy son, and even established the celestial court. Just these 3 matters alone have made my Tongming cult your enemy. You can leave now. However, don't be afraid that this sect master will be merciless the next time we meet. Tongming sect master said coldly. Yi Xian seemed to be prepared for Tongming sect master's disdainful attitude. He smiled mysteriously and said, Sect master, don't you want to know what secret I'm going to use to exchange with you? The northern domain is vast. My Tongming cult has existed since ancient times. What secret does Dao friend think my Tongming cult would want? Tongming sect master said disdainfully. Since sect master doesn't care about it, then this Yi Xian won't say anything more. However, This secret involves the strongest since ancient times. It seems like I can only give it to the other two sections. Yi Xian secretly transmitted his voice and pretended to sigh. He turned around and was about to leave, but before he could even take 3 steps, Tong Ming instantly blocked his path. His eyes were filled with bewilderment as he looked at Yi Xian. What did Dao Friend just say? Tong Ming's sect master lowered his voice, as if he wanted to confirm Yi Xian's words. So Dao Friend is willing to talk with me now? Yi Xian said playfully. Seeing Yi Xian's calm attitude, Tong Ming's sect master's eyes trembled and he said, Dao Friend, let's talk somewhere else. Please. Tong Ming's sect master didn't say anything else, and directly walked towards the central hall. Yi Xian followed behind him. Soon the two entered the hall. As the stone door closed, they disappeared from everyone's sight. What happened to the sect master? What did that person say to him? The 4 grand elders murmured in shock. Their eyes were filled with doubt. Tong Ming's sect master was calm just a moment ago. Why did his expression change in an instant? Even his attitude towards Yi Xian had changed so drastically? Unfortunately, no one could tell them the answer. As for what Yi Xian and Tong Ming's sect master talked about, only the two of them knew. The hall was as dark as ink. A few ancient oil lamps flickered in the hall, causing this sealed space to appear eerie and deathly silent. 2 figures sat cross-legged facing each other. Under the light of the oil lamps, they appeared strange and terrifying. A heavy atmosphere filled the air. Tong Ming's sect master's expression was grave. He stared at Yi Xian and asked the biggest question in his heart. Yi Daoyu, what is the secret you mentioned about the strongest of all eternity? It was no wonder that Tong Ming's sect master was so serious. This matter was related to the strongest of all eternity. He had to pay attention to it. After all, every immortal realm expert's greatest wish was to become the strongest of all eternity. In the chaotic universe, there are 12 periods. Every period will give birth to a strongest of all eternity. This is already the 10th period. There are only 2 positions left. It seems that Dao Friend is very ambitious. Yi Xian smiled and didn't answer the question. Chapter 1449. Yi Daoyu, this sect master does not wish to hear any nonsense. What are you trying to say? Tong Ming said with slight anger. Heaven-breaking void cauldron. These 4 simple words came out of Yi Xian's mouth. However, these 4 words were as heavy as the heavens. When Tong Ming heard these words, his breathing quickened and his pale eyes turned red. Silence, silence, a strange silence. This silence lasted for more than 10 breaths of time. It was so oppressive that it made it hard for one to breathe. Fellow Taoist, do you think I'm a 3-year-old child that can be bullied so easily? Suddenly, Tong Ming took the initiative to break the oppressive atmosphere. He shouted at Yi Xian coldly. The dark light around his body surged violently, as if he was about to attack Yi Xian. I advise you not to bluff. This method of yours might be effective on others, but it has no effect on me. If you really want to know the whereabouts of the heaven-breaking cauldron, then let's have a good talk. Yi Xian said indifferently. Who? Tong Ming exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He actually calmed down. Clearly, he was just being emotional. It was also a method to test Yi Xian. Yi Daoyu, empty words have no proof. You want me to believe you when you say that you know the whereabouts of the heaven-breaking cauldron? Don't you think that's a little too laughable? Tong Ming said in a deep voice. However, if one listened carefully, they would notice that his voice was trembling. Clearly his heart was not calm. Take a look at this. Yi Xian did not waste any words. He directly took out the remnant book that Song Huaimia gave him, and casually threw it to Tong Ming. Tong Ming caught it, and quickly flipped through it. Time passed little by little. Tong Ming read it very carefully, almost word by word. At the same time, Yi Xian was also observing Tong Ming's expression. The power of space-time covered his entire body. As long as Tong Ming attacked him, he would immediately leave this place. Right now there were only 2 possibilities. Either the heaven-shattering cauldron was in the Netherworld sect, and in order to prevent this secret from being leaked out, the Netherworld sect leader had to keep Yi Xian here no matter what price he had to pay. The second possibility was that the heaven-breaking cauldron was not in Tong Ming cult. Therefore, Yi Xian would naturally not be in any danger. However, regardless of the result, Yi Xian had achieved his goal. So he was very calm and was observing Tongming cult to hide. At this moment, Yi Xian was absolutely certain that the heaven-shattering cauldron wasn't in the hands of the Tongming school, because at this moment, the Tongming school's eyes would occasionally reveal an extremely greedy and fiery expression. This also meant that the news of the heaven-shattering cauldron had already aroused his ambition and greed. He did not return it to Yi Xian. Instead, he carefully kept it. Fellow Taoist, are you joking? This remnant book did not record the location of the heaven-breaking cauldron. Isn't it a joke for you to give me something like this? Moreover, this is just a fragment of a book. We don't even know if the contents are true. If you want my Tongming cult to let your heavenly court go, I'm afraid you're dreaming. Tongming cult master said coldly. Ha! Yi Xian laughed. It was an extremely sarcastic laugh. He looked at Tongming cult with a mocking gaze. Tongming, you and I are both smart people. You don't have to pretend. If this remnant book is fake, why did you read it for 2 hours? Tongming cult did not reply. His eyes flashed as he looked at Yi Xian with killing intent. It was as if he was weighing a decision in his heart. Don't think about killing me to silence me. I've told you before that you can't kill me. If I spread the news of the heaven-breaking cauldron to the other 2 sects, I'm afraid fellow Taoist Tongming will lose the initiative. Yi Xian acted as if he had Tongming cult in his grasp. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Tongming cult laughed loudly. Yi Dao, you don't misunderstand. I'm just testing fellow Taoist. I won't really kill you to silence you. It's just that I find it hard to believe that Yi Dao would tell me such a big secret. Does fellow Taoist believe me now? Yi Xian said indifferently. Of course. Tongming cult nodded solemnly. At this point, there was no need to feign civility with Yi Xian. It was best for them to get straight to the point. Yi Dao, if I didn't see this remnant book in your hands today, I would have suspected that there was a heaven-breaking cauldron in the northern region. Now that I have this remnant book in fellow Taoist's hands, I can finally confirm that the heaven-breaking cauldron is in the other 2 sections. Tongming cult said in a deep voice. What do you mean? Yi Xian pretended to be confused. Fellow Taoist, listen to me carefully. As Tongming cult spoke, Yi Xian learned of an old matter. It turned out that when the 10th Eon began, a dazzling divine object fell from the sky of the northern region. The 3 sects had gone to search for it. Unfortunately, they couldn't find it, and could only leave it unsettled. However, Tongming cult was second to none when it came to gathering information. After their continuous deduction, they found that the aura and shape of this divine object were extremely similar to the legendary heaven-breaking cauldron. Therefore, after so many years, every generation of Tongming cult sent people to secretly search for clues about this divine object in the northern region. However, they couldn't find any trace of it. This secret had been passed down from generation to generation, and even Tongming cult's generation didn't give up. Moreover, the remnant book that Yi Xian gave him today was made of cold essence stone. This cold essence stone was the main material for refining divine weapons. In the entire northern star field, this material had always been controlled by the 3 sects of the northern region. It was impossible for it to be leaked to the outside world. Therefore, the heaven-breaking cauldron must be in one of the 3 sections. Now that Tongming cult knew about this, Tongming cult was the first to be eliminated. The heaven-breaking cauldron must be in the northern nether cult, or the fairy cult. As for which cult it was, it would require a thorough investigation. Yi Dao, from now on, you are a friend of my Tongming cult. The celestial court will also be regarded as the 4th great cult in the northern region. I can guarantee fellow Taoists that from now on, our 2 sects will help each other, Tongming cult said sincerely. Then many thanks, fellow Taoist. Yi Xian cupped his hands and bowed with a smile on his face. After 7 days, the stone door of the central hall rumbled open. Tongming cult walked out with Yi Xian with a smile on his face. Looking at their intimate posture, it was as if the 2 of them were good friends who hadn't seen each other for many years. Where was the attitude of an enemy from before? This. Looking at the smile on Tongming cult's face, the 4 elders of the Tongming cult were stunned. They didn't know what Yi Xian had said to their sect master. How come in just 7 days, The two of them seemed to be best friends. Pass down this sect master's decree. Prepare a generous gift and send it to the Celestial Court. From now on, the Celestial Court will be the fourth great cult in the northern region. My Tongming cult will be on good terms with the Celestial Court for generations. Disciples of my cult are not allowed to be enemies with members of the Celestial Court. Otherwise, they will be punished according to the cult's rules. Tongming sect master spoke in a dignified manner as he sent out a green decree. His voice resounded throughout the entire Tongming sect, causing an uproar among the disciples. Many thanks, fellow Taoist Tongming. This you will take his leave. If there is an opportunity in the future, I would like to invite fellow Taoist to be a guest at the Celestial Court. Yi Xian cupped his hands and bowed. Chapter 1450. Without a trace, he ascended to the sky. Under the gaze of Tongming sect master and the others, Yi Xian left Tongming sect openly. The four elders wanted to stop him, but Tongming sect master stopped them with a look. Sect master, letting a tiger return to the mountain will only bring trouble in the future. Sect master, why did you let him go? This person is too mysterious. He will be a great enemy of our Tongming sect sooner or later. The four great elders of the Nether Passage schools spoke out at the same time. Their faces were filled with worry. It was obvious that Yi Xian had given them a lot of pressure. If they didn't get rid of this kind of person, he would become a disaster sooner or later. It's fine to let a mere Yi Tian go today. He won't be able to cause any trouble. Now, I have something important to tell the four of you. This is related to the rise and fall of our Tongming sect. Tongming sect master called out to the four elders and entered the central hall together. What? The heaven-shattering cauldron? Is what sect master said true? Inside the hall, the four grand elders muttered in shock as they looked at Tongming. They were shocked beyond words by this news and could not believe what they had just heard. Of course it's true. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let him go. Moreover, I also issued a decree that our sect is not to be enemies with the Celestial Court, Tongming sect master said in a deep voice. But sect master, if what this person said is true, and this book is also true, then is the heaven-shattering cauldron in the Celestial Maiden sect, or the Northern Dark sect? The fourth elder asked doubtfully. Sect master, the heaven-shattering cauldron is a supreme treasure of the primal chaos universe. Even the strongest of the ages coveted it. If one of the two sects had the heaven-shattering cauldron, why didn't they unify the entire Northern Territory? Why are the three sects in the Northern Territory in a deadlock? The third elder was also puzzled. Tongming sect master smiled gloomily and muttered. The heaven-shattering cauldron is a supreme treasure of the primal chaos universe. Legend has it that anyone who can comprehend it will become the strongest of the ages. But how can the heaven-shattering cauldron be comprehended so easily? Hierarch, do you know anything else? Tongming cult's great elder's eyes were deep. He could hear the hidden meaning behind Tongming's words. Obviously, other than the secret Yi Xian had brought to him, Tongming cult's great elder should know some other unknown secrets. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be so confident. Actually, when I took over the position of sect master, the previous sect master told me that the divine item that fell from outer space was very likely the heaven-shattering cauldron. I've been investigating this matter all these years. Although there aren't many clues, I've still managed to find something valuable. Therefore, when Yi Tian told me about the clues regarding the heaven-shattering cauldron, I can finally confirm which sect this heaven-shattering cauldron belongs to. Tongming sect master smiled darkly, his eyes burning with greed. Even the aura around his body became chaotic. Sect master knows where the heavenly shattering cauldron is? The grand elder of Tongming cult was shocked and looked at Tongming in surprise. Dark North sect. The heaven-shattering cauldron is in Dark North sect. Tongming cult's great elder spoke word by word. His voice was so low that even his voice was trembling. If Yi Tian hadn't brought this book fragment, I would have only suspected Dark North sect. But today, I can finally confirm that the heaven-shattering cauldron is in Dark North sect. Why are you so sure, sect master? The grand elder asked in surprise. Ha ha ha. Tongming cult's great elder laughed loudly. He took out the book fragment and waved it in front of the 4 Grand Elders. Although this book fragment is made from cold yuan stone, it contains some of Dark North Sect's aura. This means that the person who left behind this book must be from Dark North Sect. If I'm not wrong, when Dark North Sect obtained the heaven-shattering cauldron, there must have been a fight within the sect. And this person must have known about it, Tong Ming Cult said confidently. Sect Master, since you're sure that the heaven-shattering cauldron is in Dark North Sect, why didn't you kill Yi Tian? After all, he also knows about the heaven-shattering cauldron, Tong Ming Cult's second elder said. So what if he knows? Tong Ming Cult's great elder smiled sinisterly. The most important thing for us now is to snatch the heaven-shattering cauldron. This Ren Sect's celestial court's strength cannot be underestimated. We can only make good use of him. We can't offend him at this crucial moment. Tong Ming Cult's great elder paused for a moment before looking at the 4 Grand Elders. Go and inform my junior sister to come out of seclusion. Tell her that something big has happened, and I need her to help me. Sage Nun is trying to open the 4th gate of heaven, asking her to come out of seclusion now. The Grand Elder's face was slightly troubled. She has been in seclusion for millions of years, and still hasn't opened the 4th gate of heaven. She has also used up countless resources of our sect. Now is the time for our sect's rise and fall. She must take action. It's time for her to return the favor. Tong Ming Cult's great elder said coldly. Yes, Sect Master. The 4 elders hurriedly agreed, and quickly left the palace. The heaven-shattering cauldron is mine. Tong Ming Cult's great elder muttered sinisterly. His eyes were burning with passion. However, what he didn't know was that in the void thousands of miles away, there was someone who heard every single word he said. The sky was blue, and the cold wind was howling. Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the clouds. His eyes were constantly rotating. The space-time divine tree swayed slightly above his head. The space-time of this world was unpredictable, making it impossible for others to catch his trace and aura. Whoosh! Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. However, his face was slightly pale, as if he had exhausted a lot of his cultivation. So the heaven-shattering cauldron is in the North Dark Sect. Yi Xian slowly stood up from the clouds. His eyes were deep and calm. A hint of understanding flashed through his mind. It turned out that after Yi Xian left Tong Ming Cult, he didn't go far. Instead, he found a secluded place and used his space-time technique to spy on Tong Ming Cult's great elder. In order to determine whether the heaven-shattering cauldron was in Tong Ming Cult, Yi Xian had racked his brains. Fortunately, Yi Xian had succeeded. He could finally confirm that the heaven-shattering cauldron was not in Tong Ming Cult, but in the hands of North Ming Cult. As the saying goes, one can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance. When Yi Xian finally confirmed the location of the heaven-shattering cauldron, what he needed to do next was very simple. He just needed to incite a war between the 3 sects and reap the benefits. However, how to incite this war would require Yi Xian's personal planning. However, Yi Xian already had an idea in his mind. Originally, Yi Xian wanted to personally go to the 3 sects of the Northern Territory. However, there was no need for that now, because he already knew the whereabouts of the heaven-shattering cauldron. If he went to the other 2 sects, it would just be superfluous. What he needed to do now was to muddy the waters. Go! Qi! Yi Xian took a step forward. His entire body was wrapped in space-time power, and he instantly disappeared into the clouds. Chapter 1451. Dark North Sect. On this day, the war drums of Dark North Sect were beating as cultivators gathered. The Dark North Sect's leader stood proudly in the clouds. He was also in existence who had opened the 3rd gate of heaven. He had an imposing aura. The puny celestial court killed my emissary. This time, I'm going to wipe them out personally to clear the name of Dark North Sect. The Dark North Sect's leader was as handsome as jade. He stood in the sky with his hands clasped behind his back. His voice was as graceful as jade, but it was also filled with supreme majesty. Sect leader is mighty. Heaven and earth roared. The eyes of the Dark North Sect's members were burning with passion as they looked at the Dark North Sect's leader with reverence. Today, the Dark North Sect's leader was going to wipe out the celestial court. This was also the day he had agreed with the other two sections. The three sects would go to the celestial court together to destroy this newly established orthodoxy. Sect leader, we should go now. Don't keep the other two sects waiting. The Dark North sect's great elder bowed. All right. The Dark North sect's leader nodded slowly as he raised his arm slightly. As soon as he gave the order, his followers would charge towards the celestial court. All of a sudden, a streak of light flashed over from the sky, striking at Hierarch North darkness. How dare you? Who are you? The Dark North sect's great elder's expression changed. Who dared to behave so atrociously in Dark North sect? Buzz! The Dark North sect's leader frowned and caught the stream of light. As the light dissipated, a jade slip appeared in his hand. Communication jade slip? The Dark North sect's leader frowned and murmured. Then, he used his divine sense to read the jade slip. Boom! After 3 breaths, something that shocked the entire Dark North sect happened. Dark North sect leader's ruddy face suddenly turned deathly pale, and his handsome face twisted to the extreme. His eyes were filled with fear, and even his calm aura became extremely chaotic. How dare you? Who are you? The Dark North sect's leader came back to his senses. However, a terrifying aura erupted from his body as he tried his best to find the person who sent the jade slip. Unfortunately, no matter how hard the Dark North sect's leader searched, he couldn't find the owner of the jade slip, even after the 3 gates of immortality opened behind him. Who are you? Come out! Hierarch Dark North roared in rage. If one listened carefully, one would find that his voice was trembling. Obviously, a great storm had been raised in his heart. I'm just a wild crane, and happen to know about this matter. Whether I believe it or not, you know. However, the Dark North sect is facing a great calamity. It's up to you to decide what to do. The voice came from the sky above Dark North sect, making it impossible for anyone to track it. This voice made Dark North sect leader's face turn gloomy. Fellow Taoist, are you mistaken? Why would my Dark North sect have such a divine item? Dark North tried his best to calm himself down. He looked around fiercely, hoping that he could find this mysterious man. That's not important. However, the Dark North sect is facing a great calamity. I hope you can take care of yourself. I'll take my leave now. The voice was heard again, and then it fell completely silent. No matter how hard Dark North Hierarch tried, he couldn't find any trace of that person. Damn it! Boom! Dark North Hierarch slapped out in anger, and a towering mountain was smashed into pieces. He stepped into the sky and looked around for this mysterious man, but in the end, he could only return empty-handed. Hierarch, what on earth happened? The few elders walked quickly to Hierarch North Nether, their faces filled with surprise and doubt. Report. Suddenly, a disciple ran over in a panic and knelt down. He quickly reported, Hierarch Dark North sect has passed down a decree. They support the Celestial Court, and are willing to maintain a good relationship with the Celestial Court for generations. The matter of the 3 sects joining forces has been dropped. What? Hearing this news, the elders were all shocked. How could this be? What exactly went wrong? Suddenly, Dark North Hierarch's face twisted. His eyebrows knitted tightly, and his eyes were filled with panic. He had already believed what he had read in the jade slip. The matter of destroying the Celestial Court has been dropped. You can all leave, Dark North Hierarch said coldly. He waved his hand and returned to the Dark North Divine Palace. The disciples were stunned. They didn't know why their hierarch suddenly changed his mind. Inside the Dark North Divine Palace, Dark North Hierarch sat on the main seat. The elders bowed. The atmosphere in the Dark North Divine Palace was extremely oppressive. A tyrannical aura was emitted from Dark North Hierarch's body. Hierarch, what happened? The elders frowned and asked. Dark North Hierarch slowly exhaled and said in a cold voice, The secret of the heaven-shattering cauldron has been leaked. What? The heaven-shattering cauldron? Dark North Hierarch's words shocked the elders. They felt as if they were struck by lightning. They couldn't believe this news. Follow me. Dark North Hierarch didn't waste any time. He struck out a spell, and an illusory door opened in front of him. He took the lead and entered the door. The elders quickly followed. The door was very simple. There was only a stone platform. On the stone platform was a simple and unadorned small cauldron. Its color was mottled, and there was nothing special about it. The heaven-shattering cauldron? How is this possible? When the small cauldron appeared in front of the elders, they instantly exclaimed in shock. They couldn't believe their eyes. They couldn't believe that the legendary chaos treasure was in the Dark North Hierarch. How could our hierarch have the heaven-shattering cauldron? The fourth elder exclaimed in shock. However, his eyes were burning with greed as he looked at the heaven-shattering cauldron. This was a legendary primal chaos treasure. It was said that whoever obtained the heaven-shattering cauldron would become the strongest throughout history. Hierarch, why didn't we know about this? The third elder also shouted excitedly. He strode forward and wanted to pick up the small cauldron. Stop! Boom! Dark North Hierarch took a step forward while growling coldly. This woke third elder up immediately and hurriedly restrained himself from making any reckless moves. The Dark North Swallowing Sky formation is set up here. Except for me, who has the incantation to activate it. Anyone who tries to take the heaven-shattering cauldron will be attacked by the Dark North Swallowing Sky formation. Dark North Hierarch warned coldly. After saying this, Dark North Hierarch quickly formed a spell with both hands. He struck out beams of cold light toward the stone platform. After about 10 breaths, Dark North Hierarch carefully picked up the heaven-shattering cauldron. The heaven-shattering cauldron, the chaos treasure. It's the hope of our Dark North Hierarch. Dark North Hierarch's eyes were filled with obsession. He kept stroking the small cauldron in his hand. His eyes were filled with coldness. Obviously, this heaven-shattering cauldron was more important than anything else. On the other side, thousands of miles away, Yi Xian's eyes were rotating. The space-time tree was swaying constantly. The terrifying space-time power covered him. A pair of space-time Dharma eyes pierced through time and space and stared at the heaven-shattering cauldron in Dark North Hierarch's hand. It's here. It's in the Dark North Hierarch. Yi Xian growled. His eyes had turned scarlet. He wanted nothing more than to rush into the Dark North Hierarch's body and break his neck. Then he would snatch the cauldron. However, Yi Xian restrained himself. He knew that he couldn't act rashly. Now wasn't the time for him to snatch the cauldron. If he rushed over now, facing Dark North Hierarch and the other elders, not to mention snatching the cauldron, he would be in danger himself. However, Yi Xian would never be willing to retreat just like this. Chapter 1452. Yi Xian's emotions started to become a little irritable, but he knew very well that he had to calm down. He definitely couldn't lose his composure at this moment. Inside the Dark North sect, the four elders stared at the heaven-shattering cauldron with infatuation. The Dark North sect leader gently put the cauldron back to its original place, then slowly turned around to look at the four elders with a solemn expression that had never been seen before. In the entire Dark North sect, only the Great Elder and I know that the heaven-shattering cauldron is in our sect. Today, I am telling you this secret because something big has happened. It is very likely that our sect will be destroyed. The Dark North sect leader said in a deep voice. Sect leader, what exactly happened? Why is the heaven-shattering cauldron in our sect? Who sent that jade slip just now? The Great Elder hurriedly asked. An extraterrestrial divine object fell into the Northern Territory. Our Dark North sect was one step ahead of the others and seized the heaven-shattering cauldron. We even tried our best to hide this information. Unfortunately, in the end, someone could not resist the greed in his heart. This almost caused our sect to fall apart back then. The Dark North sect leader slowly recounted the events of the past and the process of how he obtained the heaven-shattering cauldron. It turned out that when the heaven-shattering cauldron fell into the Northern Territory, the Dark North sect leader found it at an extremely fast speed. The previous sect leader then sealed this huge secret, wanting to comprehend the secrets of the heaven-shattering cauldron as soon as possible. However, people's hearts were greedy. Regarding the secret of the heaven-shattering cauldron, only the previous generation's sect master and the two great elders knew about it. One of the elders coveted the heaven-shattering cauldron and actually secretly made a move against the previous generation's sect master for the sake of this cauldron. wanting to take it for himself. One had to admit that the strength of this elder was extremely terrifying. He had already vaguely surpassed the previous sect leader. In that internal strife of the Dark North sect, it could be said that he had turned the world upside down. In the end, this traitorous elder was severely injured by the previous sect leader and fled far away. The sect members who followed this elder were all executed. However, the former hierarch suffered irrecoverable injuries in that battle, and because he pursued that traitorous elder, his injuries worsened. In the end, he died and passed away, passing the throne to the current hierarch North. However, before the former hierarch passed away, the former hierarch gave the cauldron to Dark North and told him to study the cauldron carefully and to prevent that traitorous elder from leaking the information about the cauldron. However, the previous hierarch also comforted the Dark North hierarch because that traitorous elder had been severely injured by him and wouldn't be able to live for more than a few hours. As for the heaven-shattering cauldron, that traitorous elder might not be able to spread the news. Countless years had passed. Dark North had been trying his best to comprehend the sky-shattering cauldron, but what made him extremely unwilling to give up was that he had no clue at all. No matter what he tried, he couldn't figure out any secrets of the small cauldron. Today someone delivered a mysterious jade slip. There was only one sentence in it, and that was to inform Dark North that the news of the heaven-shattering cauldron in the Dark North sect had spread to the other two sects, and the Dark North sect was preparing to snatch it. Therefore, Dark North hierarch retreated and prepared to deal with the threat of the other two sections. How could he have the time to care about the newly established celestial court? After listening to Dark North hierarch's narration, the four elders' complexions became heavy. An extremely oppressive atmosphere grew. Everyone's eyes were heavy, because the four elders knew very well that the other two sects would definitely not let Dark North sect go. Even if they had to sacrifice themselves, they would still seize the heaven-shattering cauldron. Before the Great War, my Dark North sect must protect the heaven-shattering cauldron. Even if my Dark North sect no longer exists, we can't let anyone seize the heaven-shattering cauldron, Dark North hierarch shouted. The orthodoxy of the great sects could be re-established, but the heaven-shattering cauldron couldn't be lost. Faced with these two choices, Dark North hierarch had to protect the heaven-shattering cauldron even if he had to sacrifice himself. He had already prepared for the worst. The night was like water. Stars covered the sky. A gloomy figure was shuttling through the Dark North sect. Even the patrolling soldiers didn't notice this figure's existence. Yi Xian was shuttling through the void. He had concealed his aura to the extreme. The profound of space allowed him to remain undetected. His entire person was stealthily moving towards the Dark North Divine Palace. In Yi Xian's plan, he didn't want to enter the Dark North sect. But when he saw the heaven-shattering cauldron appear, he couldn't control himself. In the end, he chose to take the risk, hoping to steal the cauldron. Stealing the heaven-shattering cauldron from a great sect was an extremely dangerous thing to do. Moreover, this was not in line with Yi Xian's original plan. It was really a bit too risky. However, the heaven-shattering cauldron was too important to Yi Xian. It was so important that Yi Xian absolutely couldn't give it up, even if he had to pay any price. No one understood the benefits of the heaven-shattering cauldron better than Yi Xian. Every heaven-shattering cauldron brought unimaginable opportunities to Yi Xian. Tribulation transcender transformation, tribulation transcender devour, heaven burial art. These were all opportunities obtained from the heaven-shattering cauldron. At this moment, Yi Xian was determined to obtain the heaven-shattering cauldron in the Dark North sect. He absolutely couldn't give it up. Yi Xian had a premonition that this heaven-shattering cauldron might be his trump card to return to the Grand Central Territory. It could truly allow him to establish a foothold in the Grand Central Territory and be able to face the strongest pressure of all time. This feeling came without any reason, but Yi Xian believed in this feeling very much. This was because every small cauldron had never disappointed him and had brought him unimaginable benefits. Therefore, Yi Xian was going to take a risk today. No matter what, he had to give it a try. The Dark North Divine Palace was heavily guarded. Since the hierarch of the Dark North sect had ordered the four great elders to prepare for the attack of the Dark Transcendence cult and the Goddess cult. The four great elders had been in charge of the Dark North Divine Palace. They didn't allow anyone to come close. At this moment, the third elder and the fourth elder were guarding the Dark North Divine Palace. Both of them were at the first sky of Immortal Realm. It was extremely difficult for anyone to enter the Dark North Divine Palace. Time was torrential, and time and space were like water. Yi Xian was like a fish hiding in the water. The power of time and space concealed his aura. He was like the air, which made people unable to sense his existence. Buzz! Yi Xian turned into a wisp of wind, passing through the two great elders, and entering the Dark North Divine Palace. The two didn't notice him at all. It had to be said that the power of time and space was too profound. This also helped Yi Xian sneak into the Northern Underworld Divine Palace. If he didn't have the power of time and space, he could only force his way into the Northern Underworld Divine Palace. It's here. Yi Xian hid in the void. He could see a spacious hall. However, his eyes were gazing at a space. Apparently, the heaven-shattering cauldron was in that space. Moreover, it was protected by the dark north sky-swallowing great formation. Open! Yi Xian made a hand seal. A door opened quietly. A stone platform emerged from the door. The heaven-shattering cauldron was placed on the platform. Chapter 1453. Good formation. With just a glance, Yi Xian could tell that the stone platform was protected by a great formation. Moreover, this formation was extremely terrifying. If he didn't have the correct method to open it, if he wanted to forcefully break it, it would definitely cause an extremely terrifying backlash and attract the attention of the people from the Northern Nether sect. However, although the Dark North swallowing heaven formation was powerful, Yi Xian did not take it seriously. Perhaps this great formation was extremely difficult to break in the eyes of outsiders. But one should not forget that Yi Xian had gone through the primal chaos trial. He was a great grandmaster in the Tao of formations. Qi. 10,000 arts and limitless star runes appeared in Yi Xian's hand. Unfathomable auras were being generated as they slowly invaded the stone platform, where the heavenly shattering cauldron was placed. Qi. The stone platform shook slightly. The sound was not loud, almost inaudible. However, a cold light flashed on the stone platform. A great formation of a great sect had been easily broken by Yi Xian. Even Yi Xian could not believe that the great formation had been broken so easily. He vaguely felt that something was not right. Because his sneak attack had been too smooth, a feeling of unease grew in his heart. Dong! Yi Xian took a step forward. Half of his body had already entered the alternate space. His palm was only a foot away from the heaven-shattering cauldron. As long as he entered the alternate space, the cauldron would be in his hand. No. In the next moment, Yi Xian was startled. His scalp went numb. Because his mind was shaking, an extremely uneasy feeling suddenly grew in his heart. Retreat! Yi Xian wasn't blinded by greed. He abruptly withdrew half of his body, then abruptly turned around to look behind him. Why don't you take it, fellow Taoist? A sinister voice came from the corner. A figure walked out from the dark corner. Who else could it be but the Dark North Sect Master? It was also at this moment that ripples appeared in the surrounding space. The four great elders slowly walked out of the void and surrounded Yi Xian in the center from the north, south, east and west. He had been tricked. Yi Xian's eyes were as gloomy as water. The light of bury the heavens covered his body. A self-mocking smile appeared on his face. He didn't expect that Yi Xian would fall for the trap. Greedy, too greedy, he was too greedy. Yi Xian sighed. In fact, he should have realized that his infiltration into the Dark North Divine Palace had been too smooth. So smooth that there had been no obstacles at all. In truth, all of this had been part of Yi Xian's scheme. His purpose had been to lure him out. However, Yi Xian had been too eager to obtain the heaven-shattering cauldron, and had fallen into the other's trap. Logically speaking, Yi Xian would never fall for such a simple scheme. It was only greed that blinded his mind that made him take the risk. However, Yi Xian had learned his lesson. Greed could really harm him. Next time, Yi Xian would definitely not be so reckless. Fellow Taoist, I've been waiting for you in the Dark North Divine Palace for a long time. Are you going to surrender yourself? Or do you want this sect master to capture you personally? Dark North sect master asked coldly. I want to leave. You can't stop me, Yi Xian said gloomily. Hee. Dark North hierarch smiled viciously and said, I have to say, my friend, you are indeed amazingly powerful. Not to mention the fact that the four elders failed to notice you sneaking into the Dark North Divine Palace. Even I almost failed to sense your presence. However, I have set up a seal in the palace long ago. You can never escape. Speak, who exactly are you? The great elder roared. Surrender obediently. Otherwise, your soul will scatter and you will die, second elder said coldly. Dark North sect does have some ability. Unfortunately, Dark Transcendence sect has already set their eyes on you. You can't even protect yourselves now, yet you still want to imprison me? Yi Xian sneered. His entire body was shrouded in mist, making it impossible for Dark North sect master to see his real body. You talk too much. Stay here. Boom. The Northern Underworld cold light, the immortal force. The Northern Underworld hierarch's cultivation was fully unleashed. He was a terrifying existence that had opened the third heaven gate. So when he made a move, Yi Xian immediately felt an extremely terrifying pressure. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Boom. Yi Xian punched out. He didn't hold back at all, because he wanted to leave this place quickly. He couldn't stay here and fight with Dark North sect master. Bang! Wah! The two of them collided with each other. Yi Xian's entire body was sent flying as he spat out a mouthful of blood. It was only because the Dark North hierarch was too powerful that his cultivation wasn't something Yi Xian could compare to. The difference was too great. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. Even though Yi Xian's battle strength was heaven-defying, he was only in the Tao-comprehending realm. There was more than a realm between him and Dark North sect master. He was at a disadvantage after just one blow. You're not in the immortal realm? In the next moment, the Dark North sect leader spoke out in shock. His gaze towards Yi Xian was filled with disbelief. All this time, Dark North sect master had thought that Yi Xian was in the immortal realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the ability to sneak into Dark North sect and act so fearlessly. However, this attack just now made the Dark North hierarch realize that although Yi Xian's combat strength was terrifying to the point of being comparable to an immortal, his cultivation aura was only at the third realm of Tao seeking. How could this not shock the Dark North hierarch to the extreme? Go. While Dark North sect master was still in a daze, Yi Xian borrowed the force of his opponent's punch and shot toward the gate of Dark North sect. He activated his space-time power crazily. Clearly, he wanted to escape from Dark North sect. Stop him. Dark North sect master quickly came to his senses and shouted. The four elders didn't need Dark North sect master to say anything. The four Immortal Realm experts had already blocked the exit. Their four Immortal Realm great techniques slammed down on Yi Xian. There were four Immortal Realm elders in front of him, and Dark North sect master, who had opened the third heaven gate behind him. Yi Xian was immediately in great danger. Get lost! Boom! Yi Xian's body shook. He activated the attack character formula and the Tribulation Transcender transformation at the same time. His aura suddenly soared. He slammed out a Heaven Burial Great technique, trying to send the four Immortal Realm elders flying. Bang! With a loud bang, the Divine Palace shook. Yi Xian and the four Immortal Realm experts collided. Both sides were sent flying. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of Yi Xian's mouth. It was too difficult, too difficult. The four Immortal Realm experts attacked together. Even if Yi Xian used the attack character formula and the Tribulation Transcender transformation, he couldn't repel them. This was the gap in realm and cultivation base. It wasn't something that secret techniques could make up for. Fellow Taoist, you can't escape. Boom! Dark North sect master attacked. The Dark North divine light suppressed the world and turned into a seal that smashed down on Yi Xian. If this attack hit, even if Yi Xian didn't die, he would be seriously injured. Time! At this critical moment, the space-time power was activated. Yi Xian barely dodged Dark North sect master's attack. This made Dark North sect master's expression change greatly. You are from the space-time temple? Dark North Sect Master roared in horror. Although he was the Dark North Sect Master, how could he not recognize the space-time power? Chapter 1454. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't respond at all. He knew that he couldn't say anything more. The only thing he could do was to leave this place as soon as possible. Infinite technique, body incarnation. At this critical moment, Yi Xian didn't hold back anymore. He chanted and the sound of sutras came from all directions. His avatar in the southern Do Great region opened his eyes. A terrifying astral source power instantly appeared on Yi Xian's body. Time Star. The entire northern underworld divine palace was sealed by restrictions, so it was impossible to escape with just the power of space and time. Therefore, Yi Xian had to use his avatar to help him. Only the methods of a Chaos Star Master could break these restrictions and use the power of space and time to escape. Stop him. Don't let him escape. Dark North Hierarch's eyes were sharp. He immediately noticed that Yi Xian's aura had become extremely unpredictable. An extremely bad feeling rose in his heart. He immediately sent a Dark North Great Art to suppress Yi Xian. On the other side, the 4 Great Elders also attacked madly. 4 Immortal Realm experts attacked at the same time. If this attack landed on Yi Xian's body, he'd definitely be annihilated. Break! Yi Xian roared fiercely. The Time Star opened up a passage. Yi Xian instantly entered the passage, but the 5 Immortal Realm Great Arts attacks just happened to hit the passage at the same time. Puff! A stream of blood splashed out from the passage. However, Yi Xian had disappeared. Apart from a pool of blood in the hall, Yi Xian had completely disappeared from the eyes of Dark North Hierarch and the others. Damn it! Dark North Hierarch roared furiously. He was just a little bit away from being able to keep Yi Xian here. He didn't think that he would fail in the end. Space-Time Temple. He's actually from the Space-Time Temple? Dark North Hierarch's face was gloomy. He anxiously paced around the hall. The 4 elders also looked extremely solemn. Clearly, they were extremely afraid of Yi Xian's identity. Boom! Tens of breaths later, Dark North suddenly realized what was happening. He reached out his hand and sucked the cauldron into his hand, then solemnly put it into his chest. After this battle, Dark North Hierarch had no choice but to keep the cauldron with himself. He had to make a choice between the cauldron and the Dark North Hierarch. Pass down my decree. Recall the 2 grand elders of our cult, and order all disciples to return to our cult. Anyone who dares to disobey will be punished according to the cult's rules. Dark North Hierarch said with a deep voice. The 4 elders dared not to hesitate, hurriedly taking the order and leaving. Watching the 4 elders leave, the Dark North Sect leader said with a grim face. Even if the Dark North Sect no longer exists, the heaven-shattering cauldron cannot be lost. Boom! Ripples appeared in the air, and the sound of heaven and earth exploding could be heard. Yi Xian's entire body fell out of the air. However, his body was cracked like a spider web, and blood couldn't stop flowing out from the corner of his mouth. It's too much. Cough. Yi Xian's face was pale, and his eyes were extremely gloomy. This time his injuries were not light. Fortunately, he had many secret techniques. Otherwise, he would have died in the hands of Dark North Hierarch. I was too careless. Yi Xian blamed himself. He was too impulsive. Otherwise, how could he have put himself in danger? A man's greed will lead him to eternal damnation. I have always understood this, but I never thought that I would still be blinded by greed. Yi Xian was reflecting on himself. This experience had taught him a profound lesson. If he had not been so anxious to obtain the heaven-shattering cauldron, he would not have suffered such heavy injuries. However, it had already happened. Yi Xian could not regret it anymore. This experience had also taught him a good lesson. Dark North Hierarch. Yi Xian's eyes were extremely gloomy. A murderous aura emerged from his body. He was considering if he should head to the Goddess Sect next. Dark North Hierarch already knew that the heaven-shattering cauldron was in the Dark North Hierarch. Only the Goddess Sect was still in the dark. Dark North Hierarch would never tell the Goddess Sect about the heaven-shattering cauldron. Therefore, he had to pass this information to the Goddess Sect. Only then would he be able to stir up the 3 Hierarch and emerge victorious in the chaos. However, Yi Xian knew that it would be too dangerous for him to head to the goddess sect now. He could only choose a compromise. Qi. A jade slip appeared in Yi Xian's hand. The power of time and space suddenly erupted. Yi Xian casually threw out the jade slip, which instantly tore through the void and disappeared. After doing all this, Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. It did not matter if the goddess sect believed the contents of the jade slip or not. As long as they saw the battle between Dark North Hierarch and Dark North Hierarch, the goddess sect would definitely find some clues. At that time, the goddess sect would also be involved in this mess. Dong! Yi Xian took a step forward, tore through the void, and returned to the Taiyin Divine Mountain. He had already done what he needed to do. Now he had to quickly recover from his injuries. It would be best if he could step into the Dao integration stage. Only then would he be able to better deal with what was going to happen next. The North region was in chaos, and the entire world was shocked. Shocking news spread throughout the North region, causing the living beings in the North region to tremble to the extreme. From the Dark North Hierarch to the ordinary disciples, everyone in the Dark North Hierarch was ready to set off. They actually mobilized the entire Dark North Hierarch to attack the Dark North Hierarch. A battle between the two Hierarch and the Dark North Hierarch was inevitable. This battle caused mountains and rivers to collapse and blood to flow. The strength of the two Hierarch and Dark North Hierarch were evenly matched. Countless disciples from both Hierarch and Dark North Hierarch were killed in this battle. Moreover, the two Hierarch and Dark North Hierarch fought a world-shaking battle. It was simply earth-shattering. Dark North Hierarch was severely injured in this battle because Hierarch Tongming and Saintess Tongming had joined forces. The Saintess Tongming was also someone who had opened the third gate of heaven. In a 2-on-1 situation, Dark North Hierarch almost died in their hands. Fortunately, the two Hierarch and Saintess Tongming returned in time and forced Hierarch Tongming and Saintess Tongming to retreat. One Hierarch from each Hierarch and Saintess Tongming died in the battle. It could be said that both sides suffered great losses. However, this was not the end. Before the living beings in the North region knew what was going on, the goddess sect had also joined the battle. Their target was also the Dark North Hierarch. This made things worse for the Dark North Hierarch. They could only activate the sect protecting formation to defend against the attacks of the two Hierarch and Saintess Tongming. The battle between the three Hierarch and Saintess Tongming caused great suffering. Countless cultivators from the three Hierarch and Saintess Tongming died in every battle. The three Hierarch and Saintess Tongming also passed down a decree, ordering the major sects to support them. This battle instantly affected the entire North region. The forces in the North region were not complicated. They were all led by the three Hierarch and Saintess Tongming and Saintess Tongming. This time, the three Hierarch and Saintess Tongming and Saintess Tongming and Saintess Tongming and Saintess Tongming had no choice but to join in the battle between the three Hierarch and Saintess Tongming and Saintess Tongming and Saintess Tongming. Sects fought against sects, and the three Hierarch and Saintess Tongming and ancient demons, who had not appeared in the world for a long time, were stirring up waves of excitement. The entire North Star starfield was in a mess. Rivers of blood flowed and white bones were everywhere. The vast North Star starfield had turned into a slaughterhouse. It was completely engulfed in the chaos of war. However, no one knew the cause of this chaos. Chapter 1455. The Snow Bamboo Peak of the Billion Frozen Mountains. Phew! Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the peak. He slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi and opened his eyes. His pupils rotated slightly, distorting the void wherever his gaze landed. Sect leader, the North region is in complete chaos. The three sects are killing each other. When should we make our move? The four great demons quietly appeared behind Yi Xian. Scarlet Witch asked in a deep voice. Her eyes were filled with eagerness. What's the rush? This is just the beginning. The best part is yet to come. Yi Xian said indifferently. Sect leader, now is the time for our celestial court to rise. The three sects are fighting each other, and there are countless casualties. All the major sects and orthodoxies in the North region are also involved. The entire North region is in chaos. As long as we make our move now, we will definitely be able to gain a foothold in the North region. Green Ghost said. The war between the three sects has reached a stalemate in the end. It won't be long before the three sects pay a visit. Only then will it be time for us to act. All of you can leave now, Yi Xian said. The four demons looked at each other, nodded, bowed, and left. Although they were not completely convinced by Yi Xian, they still had to listen to Yi Xian's orders on the surface. Humph. Watching the four demons leave, Yi Xian snorted coldly and murmured, "If you listen to me obediently, everything will be fine. If you don't, then I will have to send you on your way." Yi Xian did not trust the four demons at all. They were just using each other. However, the battle between the three sects had affected the entire North region. The four demons were strong and would be of great help to Yi Xian at the right time. "Sir." Fatso Huang quietly appeared behind Yi Xian. "How's it going?" Yi Xian said in a deep voice. "Mister, according to your order, the 5 great elders have already attacked the 5 great sects in secret. They've even plundered a huge amount of cultivation resources. I think it's enough for them to enter the immortal realm," said Fatty Huang solemnly. "Good. The 5 of them did not disappoint me." Yi Xian nodded with satisfaction. "Sir, there's something I don't know if I should say or not." Fatty Huang frowned slightly as a hint of worry flashed in his eyes. "You want to know why I should help the 5 great sect leaders reach the immortal realm?" Yi Xian turned around and smiled at Fatso Huang. "Sir, it's not that I'm worried, but the 4 demons are already a hidden danger. If you help the 5 great sect leaders reach the immortal realm, aren't you afraid that they will betray you?" Fatso Huang said worriedly. Looking at Fatso Huang's serious expression, Yi Xian patted his shoulder and comforted him. "You have to know that danger and opportunity coexist. Even though I started the battle between the 3 sects, it's extremely difficult for me to destroy the 3 sects alone. I can only achieve my goal by using the 4 demons and the 5 great sect leaders." Yi Xian paused for a moment, then looked into the distance and murmured, "Moreover, I found an opportunity to reach the Path Integration Realm. I think I'll be able to reach the Path Integration Realm in 30,000 years. By then, I might be able to fight with the sect leader who opened the 3rd gate of heaven." 30,000 years? Fatso Huang frowned. "Don't worry, the battle between the 3 sects won't end in a short time. After all, the 3 sects have been in a stalemate for many years and don't dare to use their full strength. If I'm not wrong, this battle will last for tens of thousands of years. During this time, you and Beichen have to cultivate well and break through your current realm as soon as possible," Yi Xian instructed. "Yes, sir." Fatso Huang took his leave. Time was like water, passing in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, 30,000 years had passed. During these 30,000 years, the entire northern region was devastated. The northern region was filled with a murderous and bloody aura after 30,000 years of killing. Snow Bamboo Peak. Why is it still not working? At the peak of the snow mountain, the cold wind whistled. Yi Xian's aura merged with heaven and earth. His terrifying power made the mountain range under his feet shake violently. However, Yi Xian was like a madman. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he had fallen into a state of madness. During these 30,000 years, Yi Xian had been comprehending the opportunity to reach the Tao integration realm every day. He could feel that he had grasped the opportunity, but he couldn't step into the Tao integration realm. Heaven and earth as one, and heaven and earth as one. This was the Tao integration stage. However, Yi Xian couldn't step into the Tao integration realm at all. Even after 30,000 years, he was still stuck at this bottleneck. Moreover, during these 30,000 years, the 5 sect masters had to undergo the immortal tribulation. 2 of them had died tragically under the immortal tribulation, and only 3 of them had successfully passed the immortal tribulation. Although they had lost 2 sect masters, the Celestial Court had gained 3 immortal realm experts. Including the 4 demons, they now had 7 immortal realm experts. Although this lineup alone could not be compared to the 3 major sects of the North region, it was definitely not far off. Moreover, after 30,000 years of development, the Heavenly Court's reputation had risen in the North region, and it had officially become the 4th major sect. However, hidden dangers had appeared. The 3 sect masters had reached the immortal realm, and the 4 demons were in charge of the celestial court. These 7 immortal realm experts hadn't visited Yi Xian for a long time. Obviously, they were showing signs of disobedience. However, although the 3 sect masters had reached the immortal realm, they were still afraid of Yi Xian. After all, they had seen Yi Xian kill 3 immortal realm experts. This kind of deterrence didn't make them act recklessly. However, the 4 demons were different. In the past 30,000 years, they had stayed in the celestial court and controlled the forces of the celestial court. Without the restrictions of the 3 major sects, they went around killing sect masters and plundering resources. It could be said that they were living a carefree life. They had almost forgotten about Yi Xian, the leader of the celestial court. Fatso Huang had reported this to Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian allowed the 4 demons and the 3 sect masters to do whatever they wanted. He only focused on cultivating in the snow bamboo peak and reached the Dao integration realm. Dao integration? What kind of Dao is it? At this moment, Yi Xian was extremely calm. He was examining his own laws in Dao, and he was comprehending the so-called primal chaos of the universe. Dao integration? Dao integration. Yi Xian mocked himself in a low voice. His eyes were spinning as if he'd grasped the true opportunity, and this opportunity had always been overlooked by him. I've never believed in heaven and earth or the chaotic universe. I've always believed in myself. Why should I integrate? Ha ha ha. Suddenly Yi Xian laughed out loud. However, his laughter was too self-deprecating. He'd been comprehending for 30,000 years, but he was actually stumped by an extremely simple question. It was only today that he truly woke up. Yes, the so-called Dao integration realm was only a kind of spiritual enlightenment. It was also a kind of self-certification. Those who stepped into the Dao integration realm were one with heaven and earth. They were one with heaven, earth, and man. However, Yi Xian only believed in himself. He only believed that he was invincible. He believed that he could defeat all enemies in the heavens. Even the chaotic universe would fall under his feet. Since he only believed in himself, why should he integrate with heaven and earth and universe? I am heaven, I am earth, and I am myself. There is no heaven, no earth, no heaven, no earth, and no me. All Dao is one. I am heaven and earth. Yi Xian's roar could shatter mountains and rivers. Heaven and earth cracked. His entire being was sublimated at this moment. An extremely terrifying aura erupted from his body. The sky-bearing skill was running wildly in his body. Chapter 1456. Rumble. The heavens exploded and the void collapsed. This aura was simply too terrifying. It disturbed the cold mountains, and even pierced through the heavens and starry skies. An extremely terrifying aura erupted from Yi Xian's body. At the same time, an extremely shocking scene appeared. Bam bam bam. Chaotic vortexes appeared behind Yi Xian. They were like ancient stars that rotated endlessly behind him. This was Yi Xian's origin world, also known as the chaotic 12 periods world. Rumble. It was as if the ancient stars were rotating, as if the primal chaos was humming. 12 chaotic vortexes quickly rotated around Yi Xian's body. Strands of gray mist were born, gradually covering Yi Xian's entire body. Breaking out of the cocoon and transforming into a butterfly, his mind was elevated. It was also strengthening Yi Xian's physical body and nurturing Yi Xian's cultivation base. At this moment, the chaotic 12 periods world underwent an indescribable change. This change was indescribable, but it was truly happening to Yi Xian's body. It caused him to undergo an indescribable metamorphosis. This metamorphosis was different from the past. Yi Xian's entire body was steadily improving from inside out. Even his origin world was gradually becoming clearer and faintly showing signs of compatibility with him. Qi, qi, qi. Several streaks of light shot over from all directions. The commotion caused by Yi Xian's breakthrough was simply too great. He broke through. Scarlet Witch looked at him in shock. A trace of fear flashed past her eyes. The aura of the Dao integration stage. But it's a little different. What's going on? Taoist Green Ghost looked at him in shock. Because they had all been in the Dao integration stage before. They could clearly sense that although Yi Xian was currently in the Dao integration stage, he gave them an extremely dangerous feeling. I've already said that this person is not ordinary. His cultivation base and origins are unfathomable. Daoist Whitebone said with a worried expression. If breaking through to the Dao integration realm is already so terrifying, what kind of scene would it be if he stepped into the undying realm? Daoist Crimson Fiend whispered in horror. The four demons wore solemn expressions as fear flashed across their eyes. The four demons were already wary of Yi Xian. Now that Yi Xian had broken through to the Dao integration stage, this fear intensified. In fact, in the past 30,000 years, the four demons had wanted to kill Yi Xian and take over the celestial court. After all, the three religions were already in chaos. It didn't matter whether Yi Xian was there or not. With their cultivation as the four immortals, and the growing influence of the celestial court, they would definitely be able to dominate the northern region in the future. However, the four demons didn't attack Yi Xian. It was not that they didn't want to kill Yi Xian, but every time they were about to join forces to kill Yi Xian, they would hesitate and give up in the end. It was because the deterrence Yi Xian gave them was still fresh in their minds. They didn't dare to act rashly. Therefore, in the past 30,000 years, the four demons had almost controlled the entire celestial court. Only the four demons were known in the celestial court. Few people knew that there was a sect master, Yi Xian. At this moment, although the four demons were in a heavy mood, the three sect masters were in the worst mood. Sect Master Jiuqiu, Sect Master Corpse Kuei, and Sect Master Solar. The three sect masters were originally in the Dao integration stage. In the past 30,000 years, they had stepped into the undying realm thanks to the endless resources plundered by the celestial court. Unfortunately, the sect master of the Ether sect and the sect master of the Flying Saint sect had perished in the divine tribulation of the undying realm. Therefore, only the three of them were left among the five sect masters. In the past 30,000 years, the three sect masters had stepped into the undying realm, which made their status rise. Even the four demons had to show some respect to them. This also made the three sect masters regain the confidence that they used to have when they were in charge of the sect. They could even compete with the four demons now and then. Although there hadn't been any major disagreements over the years, there had been some conflicts from time to time. However, today, Yi Xian had broken through to the Dao integration stage. The three sect masters suddenly recalled Yi Xian's ruthless means, and what Yi Xian had said to them. From now on, you are my dogs. You will bite all my enemies for me. The words of the past seemed to echo in the ears of the three great sect masters like a nightmare, causing them to have sinister expressions. Fear and killing intent flashed through their eyes as they looked at Yi Xian. As long as Yi Xian didn't die, they could only be his dogs. A simple sentence revealed the thoughts of the three sect masters. Killing intent rose in their hearts at the same time, and they took a step forward. At this moment, the three of them were no longer in the Dao integration stage. If they joined forces, they might be able to kill Yi Xian. However, they wanted to get rid of the nightmare that Yi Xian had brought to them. At the same time, the four demons had already noticed the movements of the three sect masters. They could sense the killing intent from the three sect masters at a glance. The four demons looked at each other, and a murderous intent appeared. They took a step forward at the same time. Although the Scarlet, which was the only one with the highest cultivation among the seven, who had opened the second gate of heaven, these were seven living immortal realm experts. If they really attacked at the same time, Yi Xian would definitely fall into a life and death crisis. After all, Yi Xian was still in the process of breaking through to the Dao integration stage, and had yet to awaken from his cultivation. This was the best time to kill him. What are you doing? Suddenly, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen appeared in front of the seven undying realm experts at this critical moment. They glared at each other angrily, but they were also extremely anxious. The thing that they were most worried about had happened. The seven undying realm experts were ticking time bombs. They could kill Yi Xian at any time. If the seven undying realm experts attacked, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen wouldn't be able to stop them. Not only would they die, but Yi Xian would also die. Get out of the way. The white-boned Taoist said coldly. A terrifying aura spread out and pressed down on Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen. I advise you not to act recklessly. Otherwise you'll regret it. Fatso Huang said harshly. He was also threatening the 7 Undying Realm experts. He had to stall for time as long as Yi Xian woke up from his cultivation. There might be a glimmer of hope for them to get out of this crisis. Regret? The Solar Sect Master sneered. We're just concerned about Sect Master's cultivation. What's there to regret? Get out of the way. The white-boned Taoist lifted his sleeves and threw Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen away. Although it was just a casual blow, the cultivation of Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen was too different from his. They fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Obviously, they were seriously injured by this blow. Undying Realm. This was the top battle force in the chaotic world. Even if it was only at the early stage of Undying Realm, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen couldn't resist it. Dong dong dong. The 7 Undying Realm experts walked toward Yi Xian together. The whole world was filled with their footsteps. Heavy and silent killing intent bloomed slowly. They were getting closer and closer to Yi Xian. Finally, the 7 Undying Realm experts came to Yi Xian. Their killing intent finally broke out at this moment. The white-boned Taoist and the Solar Sect Master raised their hands first. The next moment, they were going to operate all their cultivation to give Yi Xian a fatal blow. Chapter 1457. All of a sudden, a pair of deep eyes slowly opened. This pair of eyes was emotionless and terrifyingly calm as it stared at the two. Time seemed to have stopped and space seemed to have frozen. When this pair of deep and calm eyes appeared in the eyes of the 7 undying beings, they seemed to have been frozen in place. A chill spread from their spine to their entire body. Even the blood in their body seemed to have been frozen. What are you guys trying to do? Yi Xian said faintly. His eyes landed on the white-boned Taoist and the extreme Yang sect leader. The two's raised hands were still frozen in mid-air. However, their faces were filled with extreme fear, and their lips were trembling unconsciously. Congratulations to sect leader for breaking through to the Dao Reunion realm. The extreme Yang sect leader was the first to regain his senses. His forehead was covered in cold sweat as he knelt down with his hands raised high. Words of congratulations came from his mouth. However, beads of sweat kept rolling down his face and dripping onto the ground. Congratulations to Dao friend for breaking through. It seems like you don't need us to protect you. The white-boned Taoist was slightly stronger than the extreme Yang sect leader. Although his face was pale, he still smiled stiffly and bowed towards Yi Xian, hoping to conceal the killing intent that he revealed just now. You guys want to kill me? Unfortunately, Yi Xian wouldn't pretend to be polite with the 7 undying beings. He slowly stood up from his cross-legged position. When he saw the blood on the corner of Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen's mouths, his calm eyes gradually turned gloomy. A trace of viciousness flashed across his eyes. Sect leader has misunderstood. How could we have the intention to rebel? Scarlet Witch quickly interrupted. Although she didn't believe what she said, she believed that Yi Xian wouldn't turn hostile against them. After all, the 7 undying beings weren't child's play. If they really turned hostile, it wouldn't benefit Yi Xian at all. Peng! Suddenly the heaven and earth froze. The Tongtian of slaughter. Everyone only felt a blur in front of their eyes. Then a sound of heaven and earth exploding could be heard. Scarlet Witch was blasted away. That heaven-burying divine light pierced through the heaven and earth void. Even the stars in outer space were blasted into dust. Wow! A mouthful of blood spurted out from the Scarlet Witch's mouth. Her slender body had smashed through countless mountains. Her bright red blood scattered across the sky as she let out a mournful cry. Hierarchy, what are you planning to do? Crimson Serpent Demoness, who had the highest cultivation level, was blown away in one strike. She seemed to have suffered heavy injuries. This immediately shocked the 6 undyings. Green Ghost Taoist even trembled as he spoke. If you want to be a dog, you should have the awareness of being a dog. I've already given you a chance, but you don't even know how to be a dog. Why do you want to bite your master? Rumble. At this moment, Yi Xian was truly too terrifying. Although his aura wasn't obvious, His entire being's essence, energy and spirit were completely different from before. A domineering aura that could cover the heavens and earth was being released. Dong! Yi Xian took a step forward, and the entire lunar divine mountain trembled. The ground beneath his feet cracked, and the heaven-burying divine light swept out in all directions. That terrifying whistling sound shattered countless cold mountains, and the earth trembled in fear for tens of thousands of miles. Hierarch, it's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. How could I dare to have killing intent towards you? The Sun Master screamed in fear. He was only at the early stage of the undying realm. How could he be Yi Xian's opponent? At this moment, Yi Xian was walking towards him step by step. A terrifying aura of life and death assaulted him. There's an old saying that if a dog bites me, I will not bite back. After all, humans and dogs are different. However, I don't agree with this saying. If my dog dares to bite its master, I will kill it with a single blade. This is what I believe in. Yi Xian spoke until here. He smiled viciously and looked at the Moon Master. And this dog of yours is too disobedient. It dares to bite me, its master. Do you think I should kill you? Go to hell. The Sun Master roared ferociously. He slapped out his immortal great technique. At this moment, he knew there was no turning back. Only by fighting for survival would he have a chance to survive. Boom! The Sun Master's golden sun fire lit up the sky and earth. The Sun Master, who had reached the immortal realm, was extremely terrifying. His flame of the origin could burn down everything. This was his final attack, which contained all of his cultivation base. Boom! The Sun Master's attack landed on Yi Xian's chest, which made him laugh crazily. It was as if he could already see Yi Xian turning into ashes under this attack. However, in the next moment, the smile on the solar sect leader's face stiffened, and the wild laughter in his mouth came to an abrupt stop. It was all because Yi Xian was calmly looking at him. This kind of silent calmness caused one's hair to stand on end, and their scalps to go numb. You really deserve to die. Boom! Under everyone's horrified gazes, Yi Xian raised his 5 fingers. The terrifying heaven-burying light beam shot out and slammed into the Sun Master's head. Boom! One strike, just one strike. Under Yi Xian's strike, the solar sect leader let out an unwilling roar. However, his entire body was slapped by Yi Xian, until not even his bones remained. He turned into a bloody mist that filled the sky and dissipated into the air. Roar! Devouring the heavens, devouring the earth, devouring the souls of calamity immortals. Yi Xian let out a beast-like roar as a terrifying black fog rose around him. He opened his mouth like a whale drinking water, and swallowed the blood and soul essence energy of the solar sect master into his stomach. After doing all this, Yi Xian slowly spat out a mouthful of turbid air that instantly pierced through the void. The black mist around him also gradually dissipated. Then, he calmly looked at Taoist Whitebone. What do you want to do? Everyone was shocked and trembled in fear. When they saw the tragic death of the Sun Master, they were terrified to the extreme. The 2 sect masters were already kneeling on the ground, not daring to move. Only Taoist Whitebone, and the others were retreating. Terrifying, too terrifying. It was simply unimaginable. 30,000 years ago, Yi Xian had to spend some time to kill Li Tsangtian. But 30,000 years later, Yi Xian killed an early-stage immortal realm expert, as easily as drinking water. This simply made everyone's soul jump out of their bodies. Disobedient dogs deserve to die. Taoist Whitebone. Do you want to do it yourself? Or do you want me to send you on your way? Yi Xian muttered sinisterly as he revealed his white teeth. He walked towards the Whitebone Taoist step by step, causing the Whitebone Taoist to retreat in fear. He even repeatedly asked for help from the other 2 demons. Fellow Taoists, today either he dies or we die. No matter how heaven-defying his strength is, as long as we join hands, we might be able to kill him. Taoist Whitebone roared in fear. However, Taoist Crimson Demon and Taoist Green Ghost looked hesitant. Obviously, they hadn't made up their minds yet. Sect Master Yi, everything is a misunderstanding. Why do you have to kill Whitebone? Scarlet Witch turned back. However, her face was pale, and the corners of her mouth were stained with blood. Obviously, the attack just now had injured her. She was even more shocked by Yi Xian's terrifying strength. Chapter 1458. At the same time, all the disciples of the celestial court quietly watched this scene. They finally saw the legendary hierarchy and the tragic death of the solar overlord. So terrifying. Is this our hierarch of the celestial court? Of course, it was this hierarchy who founded the 6 schools. You've only joined the celestial court for 1,000 years. How could you know how terrifying this hierarchy is? She'll quiet down. These undyings have been fighting for power all these years. I'm afraid our hierarchy is going to purge this internal threat. As disciples, we should just wait and see. All sorts of discussions could be heard. Although the voices of these people were very soft, when they gathered together, it became noisy, causing the expressions of the immortals to become unsettled. Their gazes towards Yi Xian were filled with panic and hesitation. Now they only had 2 choices. One was to fight to the death with Yi Xian, and firmly grasp the celestial court in their hands. The other was to submit to Yi Xian, and truly listen to Yi Xian's orders. It was obvious that the 6 immortals all wanted to choose the first path, but they couldn't make a decision because Yi Xian was simply too terrifying. The solar sect leader killed him just like that, and didn't even have the strength to resist. They were deeply afraid that they would follow in the footsteps of the solar sect leader. Moreover, other than the 4 demons, the other 2 overlords had been scared silly by Yi Xian's methods. They didn't dare to have any thoughts of rebelling, let alone joining forces with the 4 demons against Yi Xian. Hierarchy, why must we fight among ourselves? Have you forgotten our original agreement? The white-boned Taoist retreated while looking for a direction to escape. He felt that the other 3 demons didn't want to fall out with Yi Xian. You talk too much nonsense. Since you're called the white-boned Taoist, why don't you turn into a skeleton today? Boom! Yi Xian raised his 5 fingers, as if he was lifting up the universe. That terrifying aura that could shatter the heavens and earth was being released, causing the white-boned Taoist's heart to tremble in fear. He directly struck out a great technique at Yi Xian, and his entire body turned into a ray of light as he tried to escape. Do you think you can escape? Boom! Yi Xian casually dissipated the great technique that the white-boned Taoist had cast. When his 5 fingers stretched out, the entire world was trapped. A giant starry sky palm appeared above the white-boned Taoist's head and smashed down towards him. Pung! The starry sky strike destroyed all laws. This was Yi Xian's law and Tao, filled with his terrifying strength. The white-boned Taoist had only opened his first celestial gate. Yi Xian's attack. Ka! Ah! A translucent jade-like hand grabbed the white-boned Taoist's throat, accompanied by the white-boned Taoist's terrified screams. However, this hand was as heavy as the ancient sky. No matter how the white-boned Taoist struggled or unleashed all of his cultivation, he couldn't escape from the grasp of this hand. Rumble! Yi Xian raised a single arm into the sky, as he raised the white-boned Taoist into the air. His eyes were emotionless and devoid of desire. There was only indifference, and not the slightest ripple could be seen in them. The 6 desires were emotionless, and the world was heartless. Yi Xian killed people, destroyed their hearts and destroyed their souls. Killing was never Yi Xian's style. Yi Xian didn't think that he was a bloodthirsty person, but he had to admit that killing was often the best way to solve problems. It could also intimidate many rascals. Save me! Save me! The world was filled with killing intent, and all laws were destroyed. Under Yi Xian's terrifying killing intent, the white-boned Taoist truly experienced the arrival of death. He cried out for help from the 3 demons, because only the 3 demons could save his life at this moment. Sect Master Yi, please have mercy. The 3 demons arrived in an instant, and pleaded for mercy from Yi Xian. However, their faces were slightly pale, and their eyes were filled with fear. They looked at Yi Xian with a trace of fear. Those who betray me must die. There are no exceptions. Unless you want to follow in his footsteps. Yi Xian said indifferently. His emotionless eyes were cold and terrifying as he stared at the 3 demons. This made the 3 demons' hearts tremble. They looked at each other, not knowing what to do. To save or not to save. An extremely difficult problem was placed in front of the 3 demons. If they saved, they would become enemies with Yi Xian. A battle of life and death was inevitable. If they didn't save, They would bow their heads and submit to Yi Xian. From then on, they would be enslaved by him, and would no longer be free. If they could choose, the three demons would naturally choose the first option. The four immortals would fight Yi Xian, and truly shed all pretense of cordiality. Then they would take the celestial court for themselves. However, this was only a thought because the three demons knew that it was impossible. Yi Xian's combat strength was too terrifying. He wasn't someone they could kill. Even if the four immortals could defeat Yi Xian, who was only at the Tao integration realm, was already so terrifying. If Yi Xian stepped into the immortal realm one day, the four of them would undoubtedly die. Therefore, the three demons didn't want to fight Yi Xian. However, they still wanted to save Bai Gu. It wasn't because they had a deep relationship with Bai Gu, but because the three demons deeply understood the principle of interdependence. In fact, the three demons also secretly hated Yi Xian. If the three sect leaders had joined forces with them just now and truly stood firm together, it wouldn't have been difficult for the seven immortals to kill Yi Xian. However, look at the current situation. The solar sect leader had exploded and died. The two sect leaders were kneeling on the ground like dogs, not daring to move recklessly. The white-bone Taoist was even suppressed by Yi Xian. Clearly, how could the three of them fight against Yi Xian? Save me, my three friends, save me. If I die in his hands today, you won't have a good ending in the future. The white-bone Taoist roared anxiously, hoping that the three demons would fight to the death. Suddenly, a mournful howl came from the mouth of the white-bone Taoist. One of his arms was torn off by Yi Xian, and a large amount of blood sprinkled down from the sky. The tragic scene caused the three devils' gazes to freeze, and the disciples watching from afar sucked in a breath of cold air. Vicious, cruel, and bloody, Yi Xian had torn off the white-bone Taoist's arm without any warning. However, such a cruel method was extremely intimidating. Even if I die, I'll take you down with me. The white-bone Taoist's eyes were bloodshot as he howled in pain. He knew that he wouldn't be able to survive today. However, even if he died, he definitely wouldn't let Yi Xian have it easy. He would even take Yi Xian down with him. Rumble! Terrifying rumbles continued to ring out from the white-bone Taoist's body. His body swelled like a rubber ball. He actually chose to self-detonate. Clearly, he wanted to take Yi Xian down with him. The self-detonation of an immortal could unleash 10 times the terrifying power. Even if Yi Xian had reached the Tao integration stage, he wouldn't dare to take it head-on. However, Yi Xian didn't panic. It was as if he had already anticipated this situation. Before the white-bone Taoist could self-detonate, a wisp of the power of time rippled out and instantly drowned the white-bone Taoist. Chapter 1459. Reverse. Rumble. Time and space receded from the white-bone Taoist's body. The aura of time was far too mysterious. His self-destructed body gradually returned to normal. However, what happened next left everyone speechless with shock. No! Why is this happening? White-bone Priest had been howling in pain. He didn't want to give up, because his flesh and blood were withering. His black hair was turning gray, and his skin was wrinkled. Even his back, which was straight and tall, began bending. Time was like a blade. Each blade would age a person. It could sever the past and destroy the future. It could also lead living beings to death. Arg! In the blink of an eye, the white-bone Taoist had turned into a dying old man. His hair and teeth were falling off, and his strong body was melting away. He looked like a dried corpse, which was a horrifying sight to behold. However, this was not the end. Under the attack of the power of time, the white-bone Taoist's old mummified body continued to wither until all of his flesh and blood disappeared. Only a set of pale white bones remained. White bones. True white bones. A set of white bones that were as white as paper. The soul fire flickered violently within the white bones. This was where the white-bone Taoist's soul was. As long as his soul was not destroyed, he could possess another body and be reborn. Unfortunately, he would not have the chance to do so. Aren't you called the white-bone Taoist? Your current appearance suits your Taoist name. Today, let me send you on your last journey, Yi Xian said in a low and sinister voice. Yi Tian, you will die a horrible death. Even if my soul disperses, I will turn into a nightmare and curse you for all eternity." The white-bone Taoist soul was viciously cursing. His shrill voice rang out in all directions, causing everyone to shiver in fear. This proved that the white-bone Taoist's hatred for Yi Xian had reached an indescribable level. "You won't have the chance." Crack. Yi Xian's hands glowed. This was a terrifying light that buried the heavens. Under the terrifying rubbing of his hands, the white-bone Taoist was directly reduced to ashes. Even his soul was destroyed in a miserable howl. Whoosh whoosh. The wind was blowing. This was the cold wind of heaven and earth, blowing away the bone powder that filled the air. A sempiternal expert had actually vanished into thin air today. It could be said that Yi Xian had crushed his bones and scattered his ashes, leaving no trace behind. The three devils were speechless. In the end, they didn't dare to save the white-bone Taoist and lost their chance to turn the tables. At this moment, they looked at Yi Xian with panic in their eyes. They were afraid that they would be the next white-bone Taoist. As for the two sect masters, they were even more unbearable. Ever since the Sun sect master died miserably on the spot, the white-bone Taoist followed closely behind. The two immortals had both died miserably in Yi Xian's hands, causing the two sect masters to kneel on the ground and not dare to stand up. "Kneel!" Suddenly, Yi Xian's gaze landed on the three devils. His eyes were emotionless. Although there wasn't any terrifying aura around him, his gaze alone was enough to make the three devils' hearts tremble. "Dao friend, what do you mean by this?" Scarlet Witch forced herself to remain calm, but her heart was already trembling. "Kneel!" The two simple words resounded between heaven and earth. Yi Xian's eyes became even more emotionless and indifferent. His gaze was like stagnant water, causing the three devils to feel extremely uneasy. Clearly, Yi Xian wanted them to submit. If they didn't, they would end up like the white-bone Taoist and the extreme young leader. Yi Xian didn't try to hide it at all. For 30,000 years, he didn't care about anything and allowed the four devils to stir up trouble in the celestial court. Now that Yi Xian had reached the Tao integration stage, he finally made a move and forced the three devils into a desperate situation. They could either submit or die. There was no other choice. The three devils' expressions changed. They could completely understand Yi Xian's thoughts. However, they knew that they had to make a choice. Otherwise, they would definitely end up in an extremely miserable state. Not to mention Yi Xian's battle prowess. The two sect leaders who were kneeling on the ground would probably immediately attack them if Yi Xian gave the order. With Yi Xian involved, they definitely couldn't leave this place alive. Yi Xian didn't make a move. However, once he made a move, he wouldn't leave any leeway. He wouldn't give the three devils any chance to resist. This time, the three devils had suffered a huge setback. They finally understood Yi Xian's methods. Green Ghost greets the sect leader. "From now on, I'm willing to be at your beck and call. I won't dare to betray you." Suddenly, Green Ghost took 3 steps forward and knelt in front of Yi Xian. He even kowtowed 3 times to Yi Xian to express his submission to Yi Xian. Crimson Lotus greets the sect leader. Crimson Lotus Demoness instantly woke up. She immediately knelt and kowtowed to Yi Xian. Meanwhile, Crimson Lotus Demoness secretly hated himself for being ignorant. He actually allowed the two to make a choice before him. Crimson Lotus greets the master. Crimson Lotus Demoness was even more shameless. He directly knelt and called Yi Xian master. This also made Green Ghost and Crimson Lotus secretly curse Crimson Lotus Demoness for being shameless. "I really like smart people. The 3 of you are very smart. You also made the best choice." Yi Xian nodded approvingly. "Pass down this sect leader's decree. Gather all the sect's disciples here for a discussion," Yi Xian lightly said. The 2 sect masters hurriedly accepted the order. They only heard the sound of 81 bells ringing out from the hundreds of millions of miles of Mount Han. Countless rainbow lights shot towards Snow Bamboo Peak. At the peak of the Snow Bamboo Peak, Yi Xian sat in the meditative pose in the sky while Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen stood to his sides. The 5 Undyings bowed below. Below them were the members of the Celestial Court. From disciples to elders, there were more than 1 million of them. At this moment, all eyes were on Yi Xian. However, without exception, their eyes were filled with reverence and devotion. This was the respect for the strong. Yi Xian had killed 2 Undyings and completely suppressed the internal strife within the celestial court. He even made the 5 Undyings bow their heads and firmly grasped the power of the celestial court in his hands. At this moment, Yi Xian was the true sect leader. Greetings, sect leader. Like a tsunami, the heaven and earth shook. The black mass of celestial court members knelt down. Their voices came one after another. Rise, Fatso Huang said. Thank you, sect leader. The members of the celestial court stood up one after another. However, the world became so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone was waiting for Yi Xian to speak. The northern region is in chaos and a sea of blood. All of you are members of the celestial court. This sect leader will lead all of you to sweep through the northern region. Yi Xian's voice came through the world, causing the members of the celestial court to listen attentively. However, all of their hearts were trembling, because what Yi Xian was talking about was something they had never dared to imagine. Sweep through the northern region, stand on equal footing with the 3 sects of the northern region, and even become the king of the northern region, truly ruling over a region. And Yi Xian wasn't just talking. Following that, the 5 Undyings passed on their teachings. In the end, Yi Xian passed on his teachings for 3,000 years and distributed a large amount of resources to the members of the celestial court. Only then did the internal meeting of the celestial court come to an end. The so-called people's hearts and loyalty were the combination of benefits. Yi Xian already had the power and influence. All that was left was to buy people's hearts. And this meeting of the celestial court was the process of buying people's hearts. It was also the process of making the entire celestial court united. Only then could it become a sharp blade that could cut through all obstacles for him to use. 5,000 years later, this meeting of the celestial court ended. Only Yi Xian, Fatso Huang, and Gu Beichen were left on Snow Bamboo Peak. Chapter 1460. After 5,000 years of teaching, the strength of the celestial court had reached a new level. However, Yi Xian did not feel any sense of belonging to the so-called celestial court. At most, he would just use it. The celestial court was just a name given by the 6 sections. It was also a commemoration of the time in the Eldritch world. Yi Xian wanted to step into the Undying Realm more than anything else. He was just a passerby in the North region. Eventually, he would have to return to the Grand Central Territory, where his real battlefield would be. Ultimate seeds, heaven-defying evildoers, great sects, ultimate orthodoxies, the most powerful throughout history, forbidden characters. There were too many things waiting for him in the Grand Central Territory. His lifelong friend Lu Bai was also waiting for him there. He did not know how Lu Bai's cultivation was after so many years. Had he still stepped into the Undying Realm? Yi Xian admitted that his cultivation speed was extremely fast. However, he firmly believed in one thing, and that was that Lu Bai would definitely not fall behind him. This was because with Lu Bai's unprecedented talent, he would definitely be far ahead of him. Yi Xian's thoughts flew, and his gaze was deep. He sighed in his heart, as the figure of the Lord of Extreme Love flashed through his mind. He didn't know how this woman was doing right now. In fact, Yi Xian really wanted to return to the Grand Central Territory. However, the time was not ripe yet. He had to get the heaven-shattering cauldron first, and break into the Undying Realm as soon as possible. Only then would he have the confidence to return to the Grand Central Territory. Yi Xian suppressed his troubled thoughts and let out a long sigh. Gu Beichen and Fatso Huang's voices sounded at the same time. Sir, after this battle, I'm sure these Undying Realm experts will not dare to rebel again, Fatso Huang said with a smile. You killed 2 Undying Realm experts in a row, and intimidated the other 5. They have already experienced your power. Even if they were given the courage, they would not dare to rebel again, Gu Beichen said with a smile. Yi Xian said indifferently, originally, they all deserved to die. The Sun Master and the White-Bone Taoist were merely scapegoats. However, now is the time to use people, so I spared their lives. After all, the final battle is about to begin. These 5 immortals will be of great help to me. Mister, you finally stepped into the Tao integration stage. and are only a step away from the immortal stage. It won't be long before you return to the Grand Central region, right? Fatso Huang asked. Undying? Yi Xian's eyes were deep, and his gaze was slightly heavy. After a long time he muttered. How could it be so easy to reach the immortal realm? Cultivation resources, personal enlightenment, and immortal divine tribulation. If the immortal realm can be easily entered, how can this realm be called a sect master? Yi Xian sighed and frowned. Yi Xian, who had stepped into the Tao integration stage, had already seen the barrier in front of him. This was the barrier of the immortal realm. This barrier was firmly shut like an ancient stone door, and it required a great deal of strength to open it. Yi Xian had just entered the Tao integration stage. Although his battle strength had soared again, there was still a long way to go before he could enter the immortal realm. It was impossible for him to enter the immortal realm in a short time. It was extremely difficult to enter the immortal realm. Otherwise, it would not be called a sect master, and it would not be the top figure in the chaotic world. Moreover, Yi Xian was deeply aware of one thing. He was different from others. When others entered the immortal realm and faced the immortal divine tribulation, they might have a slim chance of survival. However, when he faced the immortal divine tribulation, he would definitely die. This could be seen from his past experiences of crossing tribulations. After all, Yi Xian's battle strength was so terrifying that he could even defeat people who were one realm higher than him. It was because his foundation was too deep and terrifying. Therefore, his immortal divine tribulation must be very terrifying. However, danger and opportunity coexisted. Although Yi Xian's tribulation was fatal, every time he succeeded, his battle strength could be said to be invincible in the same realm. This was also the reason why Yi Xian was so powerful. According to Yi Xian's calculation, if he cultivated step by step normally, it would take him tens of millions of years to break through the immortal realm. However, Yi Xian could not wait for tens of millions of years. Moreover, Yi Xian could feel that his immortal divine tribulation was very terrifying. He had to be fully prepared to face the immortal divine tribulation. Moreover, Yi Xian had to do his best to shorten the time. After all, he had the tribulation transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art. He had an incomparable advantage in terms of cultivation improvement. However, these were not enough. Yi Xian could vaguely feel that if he wanted to break through the immortal realm and face the immortal divine tribulation, he would need unimaginable cultivation resources. Just look at the 5 sect masters. They had used almost half of the cultivation resources of the 6 sects to break through to the immortal realm. Moreover, only 3 of them succeeded in crossing the tribulation. The other 2 died tragically under the immortal divine tribulation. According to Yi Xian's estimation, if he wanted to cultivate to the great circle of the Tao integration realm and face the immortal divine tribulation, he would need 10 or even 100 times more resources than the 5 sect masters. The remaining cultivation resources of the 6 sects were just a drop in the bucket. Therefore, only by plundering the resources of the northern region and using the Calamity Immortal technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art to devour some immortal realm cultivators would he be able to push Yi Xian's cultivation to the peak in the shortest amount of time possible and truly welcome the immortal divine tribulation. However, Yi Xian had just entered the Tao integration realm. He knew that he could not be too anxious. He should stabilize his Tao integration realm first, and then carry out his plan. Moreover, this was only one of the plans. What Yi Xian really valued was the heaven-breaking cauldron. Only by obtaining the heaven-breaking cauldron and comprehending the heaven-defying techniques hidden in it, he might be able to push himself into the immortal realm and even easily pass the immortal divine tribulation. This was the most important thing. Yi Xian's thoughts were running wild. He had already made many decisions in his heart, but he needed to take them step by step until he achieved his goal. Time was the most ruthless. In the blink of an eye, 50,000 years had passed. The northern region was devastated. The war between the 3 sects was coming to an end. It could be said that almost all the resources of the sects were exhausted. The final battle was about to begin. On the other side, over the past 50,000 years, Yi Xian had been steadily cultivating. The celestial court of the northern region operated like a tireless machine. The disciples of the six sects came out in full force and crazily plundered the resources of the northern region. It was unknown how many sects were massacred. If it were in the past, the celestial court of the northern region would have already provoked the three sects of the northern region to kill them. However, the three sects could not even take care of themselves now. Even if they knew what the celestial court of the northern region was doing, they were powerless to intervene. A large number of cultivation resources were sent to the snow bamboo peak, where Yi Xian was. The spiritual energy that stirred the world was as thick as water. In the past 50,000 years, Yi Xian did not take half a step out of the snow bamboo peak. Yi Xian swallowed all the medicinal pills, spiritual essences, heavenly materials, and earthly treasures. As long as it was beneficial to increasing one's cultivation, he was crazily cultivating the heaven-burying technique. His cultivation of the Tao integration realm was also gradually increasing. Chapter 1461. The Celestial Court plundered the resources of the entire Northern Territory with the power of a single sect, and any sect that disobeyed it was wiped out. For 50,000 years, the Northern Territory's Celestial Court became notorious, and a large number of sects chose to join the Northern Territory's Celestial Court. Anyone who disobeyed the will of the Northern Territory's Celestial Court would end up with their sect destroyed. Yi Xian's creed was very simple. Those who obey him will live, and those who disobey him will die. Under this mantra, the Northern Territory's Celestial Court was cruel and ruthless. They would slaughter sects and destroy sects at the slightest disagreement, thoroughly establishing the fierce reputation of the Northern Territory's Celestial Court. At the same time, Yi Xian's cultivation was increasing day by day. He was immersed in a sea of spiritual energy every day. With the Calamity Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art in hand, he refined these spiritual essences at an extremely fast speed. Even if the Northern Territory's Celestial Court plundered a huge amount of resources, it still couldn't catch up with Yi Xian's cultivation speed. The Northern Territory was bitterly cold, and cultivation resources were very scarce. Yi Xian's consumption was simply terrifying. His body was like a bottomless pit, and the cultivation resources he refined were simply unimaginable. To make a simple analogy, the natural treasures Yi Xian refined at this moment were enough for 100 Tao integration realm cultivators to break through to the immortal realm. However, for Yi Xian, it only sped up his cultivation speed. There was an old saying in the chaotic universe: the greater a person's potential, the more resources they needed. From this, one could see that Yi Xian's potential was terrifying to the extreme. Even the strongest of all time in the past didn't have such terrifying potential. In the blink of an eye, another 30,000 years passed. The Northern Star Territory finally calmed down, and the war between the three sects completely stopped. The Northern Territory's Celestial Court also stopped plundering, but an extremely oppressive atmosphere grew in the entire Northern Territory. This was because the creatures of the Northern Territory knew that the Northern Star Territory, which had been in turmoil for 100,000 years, was about to have a final battle. The war between the three sects was also about to usher in its final moment. Who would have the last laugh would soon be revealed. Snow Bamboo Peak. A stream of turbid air burst out, directly tearing a hole in the void between heaven and earth. Yi Xian's cross-legged figure trembled slightly, and his tightly shut eyes slowly opened at this moment. The treasures of heaven and earth that were like small hills around him all turned into ashes and dissipated. Too slow. A total of 80,000 years had passed. Yi Xian had refined a large number of cultivation resources every day, but he had only stepped into the mid-stage Tao integration realm. He was still quite a distance away from the late-stage Tao integration realm, let alone cultivate to the perfected Tao integration realm. Even Yi Xian himself didn't think that he'd painstakingly cultivated day and night for a total of 80,000 years. His entire body was soaked in heavenly materials and earthly treasures, but his progress was still so slow. This made him feel extremely helpless. Yi Xian finally realized that his body was really like a bottomless pit, as if it could not be filled at all. Unless he was given another 1,000,000 years, perhaps he would be able to cultivate to the perfected Tao integration realm. 1,000,000 years was not a long time for Yi Xian, and he was completely patient. However, he could not continue to cultivate now, because the cultivation resources were getting fewer and fewer. The resources that the Northern Region Celestial Court had seized over the past 10,000 years were getting increasingly scarce, and could not support his cultivation at all. Moreover, the most important thing was that the war between the three major sects of the northern region was coming to an end, and the final battle was about to begin. Yi Xian could not continue to cultivate at this time, because it was finally time for him and the Northern Region Celestial Court to make a move. Sect leader, long live you. The five immortals quietly appeared behind Yi Xian and bowed to Yi Xian. Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen hurried over at this moment, but each of them had a solemn look on their faces. In the past 80,000 years, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Gu Beichen had already stepped into the extreme Yin realm. Although Fatso Huang's aptitude was not as good as Gu Beichen's, he had cultivated Yi Xian's sky-burying skill. In addition to the massive supply of cultivation resources, his cultivation had also just stepped into the creation realm. However, the five immortals' cultivation had not improved at all. After all, 80,000 years was not enough for the immortal realm to have a significant improvement. However, after nearly 100,000 years of development, the Northern Region Celestial Court had truly become the fourth major sect of the Northern Region, and could completely compete with the three major sects of the Northern Region. Sect leader, these are the visiting cards sent by the three major sects of the Northern Region. Please take a look. Sect Master Jiu bowed to Yi Xian. With a flip of his hand, he took out 3 golden invitations and handed them over to Yi Xian. Yi Xian casually received them and flipped through them one by one. Everything was silent, and the world was silent. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Yi Xian casually tossed the 3 invitations to the ground. A faint smile appeared on his face, causing the eyes of the 5 immortals to slightly move. They didn't know what was written in the invitations. Since Yi Xian did not say, the 5 immortals naturally did not dare to take the initiative to ask. However, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen naturally did not have such concerns. After all, the 2 of them had followed Yi Xian since the human world. Sir, what do the 3 major sects of the northern region mean? Fatso Huang probed. Since it's a visiting card, we naturally have to pay them a visit. Yi Xian smiled faintly. Pay them a visit? The 5 immortals were all shocked. They could vaguely guess what was going on. Sect leader, could it be that the 3 major sects sent messengers to visit our northern region celestial court? Red Serpent Witch was surprised. Messengers? Ha! Yi Xian smiled. However, his smile was very strange. There was even a hint of disdain at the corner of his mouth. This time is different from the past. The 3 major sects will personally pay a visit and say that they want to drink wine and discuss the Tao with me. Sir, are you saying that the 3 major sects are paying you a visit because they need your help? Fatso Huang asked. Yi Xian slowly nodded. The war between the 3 major sects has entered its final stage. At this moment, they are in a stalemate. Only our northern region celestial court can break this stalemate. Naturally, they need my help. This is also within our expectations. Sect leader, our chance is here. Green Ghost Taoist excitedly said. There was even a cold glint in his eyes. Beichen Fatso Huang. Yes, sect leader. Go and tell the 3 sects that I will be waiting for them at Snow Bamboo Peak in 3 days. However, I will only meet one person each day. Let's start with sect leader Tong Ming. Yi Xian smiled. Yes, sir. Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen coldly smiled. The 2 of them knew Yi Xian's temperament very well. At this final moment, Yi Xian wanted to squeeze the 3 major sects dry. The initiative was firmly in Yi Xian's hands. You all go and prepare as well. Summon everyone from the northern region celestial court back. This final battle will decide the future of the northern region celestial court. Yi Xian calmly said. Yes, sect leader. The 5 immortals looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. Then, they accepted the order and left. At this moment, Only Yi Xian was left at Snow Bamboo Peak. His deep eyes looked down at the sea of clouds in front of him. A trace of blood quietly flashed through his eyes. The heaven-shattering cauldron soon, Yi Xian softly murmured. However, an extremely evil and tyrannical smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then, he quickly calmed down and sat down cross-legged to cultivate again. Chapter 1462. The world was silent. The mountains and rivers were open, and the dark clouds rolled in. In the sky, the people of the three sects were clearly separated. The three sects' leaders forgot about each other, and an extremely oppressive atmosphere grew between the heaven and earth. Dark North, stop your pointless struggle. Hand over what I want. It's your best choice. Tongming's sect master said coldly with his hands behind his back. I said that we don't have that item. Dark North sect master said coldly. What a joke. You know whether that item is in your hands or not. Since you want to keep it even if it means the destruction of Dark North sect, we will naturally accompany you. Tongming's sect master sneered. Dark North, hand over that item. Otherwise, it won't benefit our three sects if we fight to the end. The fairy sect master was a beautiful woman. She wore a white immortal robe and had a peerless appearance. However, her face was as cold as a 1,000-year-old mountain. No one could get close to her. Ha ha ha. Facing the threats of the two sects, Dark North sect master laughed maniacally. Not to mention that item isn't in my hands. Even if it is, our Dark North sect isn't a pushover. How can we let you do whatever you want? Stubborn resistance. Tongming sect master sneered and ignored Dark North sect master. Instead, he looked at the gate of heaven in front of him. This sect master Yi is so arrogant. The fairy sect master frowned and also looked at the gate of heaven. They were here to pay their respects to sect master Yi, who was also the master of the Northern Region Celestial Court. However, the three sects had been waiting here for a long time, but Yi Xian didn't summon them. This made them extremely dissatisfied. If it wasn't for the conflict between the three sects, the Northern Region Celestial Court wouldn't have taken advantage of the chaos. Now that you're here to ask for help, you should have the attitude of asking for help. If you have the ability, you can leave now. Dark North sect master sneered. After 100,000 years of war, the three sects had lost all their resources. Several of their elders had died, and countless of their disciples had died. Moreover, the three sects were fighting against each other, and none of them could do anything to the other. They didn't dare to use their full strength, for fear that they would only benefit others. If the two sects fought to the death, the other sect would sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Therefore, no matter how intense the battle was, the three sects would leave some leeway. That was why the battle between the three sects had been in a stalemate for so many years. At this moment, the three sect masters had personally come to visit Yi Xian in order to break this stalemate. As long as they could obtain Yi Xian's support, they would have a great chance of winning. My sect master invites sect master Tongming in. Fatso Huang floated over and cupped his hands towards Tongming. This caused Tongming's eyes to light up, and a hint of approval appeared on his face. Ha ha ha, sect master Yi and I are close friends. Today, we will drink wine and discuss the Tao. We won't leave until we're drunk. Tongming laughed wildly. He was deliberately provoking the two sect masters. Then he strode into the Northern Region Celestial Court. This indeed caused the Northern Region sect master and the fairy sect master's expressions to turn extremely gloomy. However, they had come here to ask for help, so they naturally couldn't show any dissatisfaction. They could only wait patiently outside the mountain gate. In fact, they already hated Yi Xian in their hearts. The three great overlords of the Northern Region, who could shake the entire Northern Region with a stomp of their feet, had been reduced to waiting outside. This difference made the two sect masters feel extremely sullen. On the Snow Bamboo Peak, there was a stone table, 4 stone stools, and a pot of sake. Other than that, there was nothing else. Yi Xian sat on the table with a peaceful expression. From time to time, he would take a sip of the drink in his cup. Fellow Taoist, we haven't seen each other for many years. Fellow Taoist's temperament has become even more otherworldly. I'm truly inferior to you. Tongming laughed loudly as he walked towards Yi Xian. Behind him was a woman with a black veil covering her face. She was wearing the same robes as him. Although her cultivation wasn't obvious, the fact that she was walking side by side with Tongming proved that her status in the sect master was definitely not low. Fellow Taoist Tongming, please take a seat. Yi Xian smiled faintly. However, he didn't get up to greet them and remained seated. This caused Tongming to frown unconsciously. However, the frown quickly disappeared and the smile on his face became even wider. It was as if Yi Xian was really a good friend who hadn't seen each other for many years. Come. Let me introduce you. This is my junior sister, and the sage of our Tongming sect. She has already opened the third gate of heaven, and is definitely not inferior to me. Tongming enthusiastically introduced the woman behind him to Yi Xian. The woman with a black veil walked forward and clasped her hands together as she bowed towards Yi Xian. I've heard that sect master Ye's cultivation is heaven-shaking, and you've even founded a great sect. Today, I see that you truly live up to your reputation. Fellow Taoist, you must be joking. I'm merely a Tao integration stage cultivator. How can I receive such praise? Yi Xian smiled. Sect Master Yi is too modest. With Sect Master Ye's cultivation, even if I open the third gate of heaven, I might not be your match. Senior apprentice brother Tongming also holds you in high regard, so this is just a small gift. I hope Sect Master Yi will accept it. Tongming's saintess expression couldn't be seen clearly due to the black veil covering her face. However, her words were filled with flattery. She even placed a brocade box on the stone table. Fellow Taoists are too polite. Yi Xian smiled faintly. He had no intention of opening the brocade box. It was as if he wasn't interested in the gift inside. Yi Daoyu, aren't you going to take a look at the gift inside the brocade box? Seeing that Yi Xian had no intention of opening the brocade box, Tongming Sec's eyes flickered. Oh, Yi Xian pretended to be surprised. It seems like the gift inside the brocade box is extremely precious. I'll have to take a look at it then. As Yi Xian spoke, he gently opened the brocade box. Instantly, a ray of light shot out from the brocade box. Auspicious sounds could be heard as the light covered the sky. Just the fragrance from the light was enough to make one feel refreshed. The blood and qi in one's body started to circulate rapidly. The Profound 9 Divine Pill is a powerful pill. If a Tao integration stage cultivator were to consume it, their cultivation would increase by 1. If a Tao integration stage cultivator were to consume this pill, their cultivation would increase greatly. They would even have a 20% chance of undergoing the immortal divine tribulation. My Tongming sect only has 2 of these pills. One was consumed by my junior sister, and the other is given to fellow Taoist. Tongming sect's sect master introduced enthusiastically. He was constantly observing the changes on Yi Xian's face. Tongming sect's sect master believed that Yi Xian wouldn't be able to reject his gift. One had to know that the Profound 9 Divine Pill was extremely precious. It was one of the most precious treasures of Tongming sect. Moreover, it had unimaginable benefits for Tao integration stage cultivators. To Yi Xian, this gift was extremely precious. Unfortunately, Tongming sect's sect master was going to be disappointed. The smile on his face gradually disappeared. This was because Yi Xian had gently closed the brocade box. His expression was calm, as if he didn't care about the Profound 9 Divine Pill at all. Many thanks for fellow Taoist's generosity. Yi Xian smiled faintly at Tongming sect's sect master. Then he waved his hand and said, "Come accept the gift." Chapter 1463. Wang. A figure silently appeared behind Yi Xian and casually took the brocade box on the table. However, the appearance of this person caused Tongming Saintess and Tongming sect master's expression to change. Both of them stared at this person. Taoist Green Ghost, why are you here? Tongming sect master asked coldly. This Taoist Green Ghost was once a protector of Tongming sect. However, he later betrayed Tongming sect. Tongming sect had been chasing after him for many years. However, Taoist Green Ghost's talent was extremely high. Not only did he not die in the hands of Tongming sect, he even broke through to the immortal realm. Hee. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Taoist Green Ghost grinned at Tongming sect master and let out a sinister laugh. However, his eyes were fixed on Tongming Saintess. His eyes were green and red. Junior sister, after not seeing you for so many years, I wonder if you have forgotten me? Taoist Green Ghost asked sternly. It had to be said that Tongming Saintess was extremely calm. She was not surprised by Taoist Green Ghost's appearance. Instead, she said softly, Senior brother Green Ghost, it was a misunderstanding back then. Junior sister also regrets her actions back then and wants to make it up to senior brother. Misunderstanding? Taoist Green Ghost was so angry that he laughed. What a misunderstanding! You killed Saint Child Dark North on your wedding day and then framed me for it. You call that a misunderstanding? Senior brother, I will explain this matter to you in the future. Junior sister really has her own difficulties. Tongming Saintess sighed sadly. You bitch. Taoist Green Ghost said angrily. A terrifying halo appeared around his body. His eyes turned scarlet. Clearly, he could not control the killing intent in his heart. This woman in front of him was extremely sinister. He knew her temperament too well. You are a guest. Don't be rude. Suddenly, Yi Xian's voice rang out. This also woke Taoist Green Ghost up. He glared hatefully at Tongming sect master and Tongming sect master before retreating behind Yi Xian. He lowered his head and did not say anything. This scene caused Tongming sect master and Tongming sect master's expressions to change. They knew Taoist Green Ghost's temperament very well. They did not expect Yi Xian to make Taoist Green Ghost calm down with just a few words. Fellow Taoists, please don't take offense. Green Ghost has been in my Northern Celestial Court for many years. I know about the grudges between you and him. He has been rude today. I apologize on his behalf. I hope you don't take it to your heart. Yi Xian pretended to apologize. Sect Master Tongming Sect Green Ghost. From now we. From now on. From now. Tongming said with a fake smile. However, a trace of heaviness flashed through his eyes as he looked at Yi Xian. To be able to make someone as arrogant as Green Ghost to be so obedient, it meant that Yi Xian was a terrifying person. Tongming Sect Master's view of Yi Xian deepened once again. Sect Master Yi Xian, let's not beat around the bush. We came here today because we have a request. Tongming Sect Master bowed to Yi Xian and went straight to the point. Oh. Yi Xian pretended not to understand and said, I don't know what request you two have. As long as I can do it, I will not refuse. However, if it is beyond my ability, I believe you two can understand my difficulties. Hearing Yi Xian's ambiguous words, Tongming Sect Master and Tongming Sect Master's hearts sank. They had a deep understanding of Yi Xian's craftiness. Yi Xian clearly knew why they were here, but he pretended not to know. He was clearly trying to raise the price. One profound Ka9 divine pill was not enough to satisfy his appetite. Fellow Taoist Yi, the war between our three sects has been going on for 100,000 years, and we've reached the final juncture. Only fellow Taoists Northern Region Heavenly Court can help my Tongming sect in this final battle. I hope that fellow Taoist can help my Tongming sect. As long as you can obtain that item, all of the cultivation resources of the Northern Nether sect and Fairy sect will be given to fellow Taoist. Sect Master Yi, as long as you can help us obtain that item, we can share this treasure. This is also an opportunity for Sect Master Yi. I hope Sect Master Yi can consider it carefully. Tongming Sect Master increased the bargaining chip. Unfortunately, Yi Xian remained silent from beginning to end. He was completely indifferent to their promises, causing the two of them to be unable to continue speaking. It was obvious that Yi Xian wasn't moved in the slightest. Hee. Yi Xian smiled. His smile was very elegant, as if he had turned into a gentleman. However, the words he said stunned Tongming Sect Master and Tongming Sect Master. Then their faces turned gloomy. Everyone knows how to make empty promises. Do you two fellow Taoists take me for a fool? Yi Daoyu, what do you mean by this? Don't you want the heaven-shattering cauldron? Tongming Sect Master's face turned cold. He had already made a huge concession, but Yi Xian still did not agree. Although the heaven-shattering cauldron is good, Who knows if you two fellow Taoists will be willing to share it with me? Yi Xian paused for a moment and sneered. Moreover, helping you Tongming sect is not a child's play. You want to use my northern region celestial court as a wager for the future. If you fail, my northern region celestial court will also be destroyed. Don't you two fellow Taoists think that you want my northern region celestial court to be involved in the war between the three sects with your empty promises? Don't you two fellow Taoists think that this is a joke? Tongming sect master's expression changed when he heard Yi Xian's words. He did not expect Yi Xian to be so difficult to deal with. This made him furious. Yi Xian, don't forget that you are the one who started the war between the three sections. If you did not tell me about the heaven-shattering cauldron, my northern region celestial court would not have been able to rise. You would have been destroyed by my northern region celestial court a long time ago. Now you are not involved. Do you really think this sect master is a fool? Tongming, are you going to fall out with me? Who do you think you are? Do you have the qualifications to fall out with me? In the next moment, the smile on Yi Xian's face disappeared, and he became extremely sinister. He did not leave any face for Tongming sect master. You dare to humiliate me? Boom! A gloomy light shot into the sky as the three heavenly gates opened. Tongming sect master's face was filled with rage as he looked at Yi Xian, with eyes filled with dense killing intent. So what if I humiliate you? Who do you think you are? Yi Xian sneered. He did not put Tongming sect master's bluff in his eyes. He was certain that Tongming sect master would not dare to make a move, because once he made a move, he would not only have to face the fairy sect and northern nether sect, but also the northern region celestial court. At that time, everyone in Tongming sect would die without a burial ground. Sect Master Yi, please calm down. Senior brother, what are you doing? Why aren't you apologizing to Sect Master Yi? The saintess hurriedly reprimanded Tongming sect master, and even bowed to Yi Xian to apologize. Tongming sect master clenched his fists and the veins on his forehead bulged. However, he could only take a deep breath and force out a smile. Yi Daoyu, you and I are friends, not enemies. I was being unreasonable just now. People had to lower their heads when they were under someone else's roof. Tongming sect master finally understood the meaning of these words. Now that the initiative was in Yi Xian's hands, he had to endure. Even if Yi Xian cursed his 18 generations of ancestors, he had to welcome it with a smile. To put it bluntly, even if Yi Xian gave him a slap, he'd still welcome it with a smile on his face. He even had to ask Yi Xian if his hand hurt. At this moment, he could not fall out with Yi Xian. If he did, not only would he not be able to obtain the heaven-shattering cauldron, the entire Tongming sect would be destroyed. This was a price he could not bear. Chapter 1464. That's right. If you ask for help, you have to have the humble attitude of asking for help. If you're too arrogant, you'll bring disaster upon yourself. Yi Xian ridiculed. Dao friend is right. I've learned my lesson. Tongming sect master gritted his teeth. He wanted nothing more than to tear Yi Xian into pieces. He regretted not killing Yi Xian back then. Instead, he allowed Yi Xian to grow stronger. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Even if Tongming was filled with regret, he could only endure it now. However, Tongming secretly swore that once the war between the three sects ended, and he obtained the heaven-shattering cauldron, the first person he would kill would be Yi Xian. Sect Master Yi, name a price. How can you help my Tongming sect? Tongming saintess was very calm. She knew that Yi Xian was only asking for an exorbitant price. Now that they were the ones asking for help, they had to agree even if they didn't want to. They couldn't afford to offend Yi Xian. Dao friend is indeed straightforward. Then I won't be polite. Yi Xian threw out a jade slip, and it landed in the saintess' hand. My northern region celestial court has 5 immortals and millions of disciples. Although I'm a Dao reunion cultivator, my cultivation isn't any weaker than the two of you. I'm sure your sect has a lot of the things recorded in this jade slip. As long as you can get them, my northern region celestial court will be your most loyal ally. While Yi Xian was speaking, the saintess had been looking at the jade slip. However, The saintess's face was covered by a black veil, so it was impossible to see her expression. Her body was slightly trembling, and in the next moment, she suddenly raised her head to look at Yi Xian. Sect Master Yi, isn't your appetite a bit too big? Even though the saintess was an extremely shrewd woman, she couldn't control the anger in her heart when she saw the conditions that Yi Xian had offered. Tongming sect master's expression changed slightly as he snatched the jade slip to read it. However, in the next moment, his face turned ashen as he glared at Yi Xian with an ominous glint in his eyes. They had gone too far. This was going too far. 8 Desolation Cloud Sky Grass. 9 Extreme Inferno Fruit. Primordial Chaos Destiny Pill. Immeasurable God Yuan Powder. These things were all heavenly and earthly treasures, and they were even sacred items in the world. Every single one of them was something that could only be chanced upon by luck, and any one of them could be compared to the 9 Divine Profound Pill. Moreover, this was only secondary. In addition to these divine items of the world, this jade slip listed countless divine weapons and secret techniques, including a huge amount of medicinal pills and spiritual items of heaven and earth. Just the things recorded in the jade slip could be said to be the entire heritage of a large sect. What infuriated the sage and Tongming sect leader the most was that the things recorded in the jade slip were the assets of the Tongming sect. It was as if Yi Xian knew that the Tongming sect had these things. Who leaked the secret? There must be a spy in the Tongming sect. Otherwise, Yi Xian wouldn't know so much about the Tongming sect. At the same time, the sage and Tongming sect leader looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. However, in the next moment, the two of them came to their senses and looked at Daoist Qing Gui. They saw Daoist Qing Gui staring at them coldly, and this made them realize what was going on. Daoist Qing Gui. Other than Daoist Qing Gui, there could be no one else. Daoist Qing Gui was once a protector of the Tongming sect. Other than him, who else could tell Yi Xian about the Tongming sect? Sect Master Yi, the things you want include the entire heritage of my sect. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to swallow them all? Tongming sect leader said in a cold voice. His fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. It was obvious that his anger had reached its peak, and he was just suppressing it. Whether I can swallow them or not, fellow Taoist doesn't need to worry about that. I want to see these things in a month. Otherwise, my northern region celestial court won't be able to help your sect. Yi Xian said with a faint smile. Junior sister, let's go. With a flick of his sleeve, he turned around and was about to leave. However, before he could take a second step, Yi Xian's voice lightly sounded from behind him. Since fellow Taoist isn't willing, this Yi won't force you. However, the 2 sect leaders outside are waiting to meet me. If my northern region celestial court becomes your sect's enemy in the future, I hope that fellow Taoist Tongming can understand. Boom! Tongming abruptly turned around. His eyes were bloodshot, and his venomous gaze seemed to want to cut Yi Xian into 1,000 pieces. However, he gradually calmed down, and the malevolent and venomous expression on his face gradually faded. All right, I promise you. A month later, my Tongming sect will definitely deliver the things you want. I hope that fellow Taoist won't go back on his word. Tongming sect leader's voice was so calm that it was a little scary. Many thanks, fellow Taoist. Green Ghost, send the guests off. Yi Xian chuckled. Taoist Green Ghost gestured to Tongming sect leader and Tongming sect leader. This caused Tongming sect leader to take a deep look at Yi Xian. He then called out to Tongming sect leader and left Snow Bamboo Peak. Mister, I'm afraid that after the war between the 3 sects ends, Tongming sect leader will definitely come to settle the score with you. Fatso Huang quietly appeared behind Yi Xian and said. Looking at the departing figures of Tongming sect leader and Tongming sect leader, Yi Xian sneered. Settle the score? Do you think that the 3 great sects of the northern region can still exist? Hearing Yi Xian's cold tone, Fatso Huang couldn't help but shiver. He then gave a flattering smile and didn't reply. He could only silently pray for Tongming sect leader in his heart, praying that he would suffer a little when he died. Tongming sect leader and Tongming sect leader exited the mountain gate. However, their auras were extremely sinister. This caused the two sect leaders who were waiting outside to rejoice. They thought that the conversation between Tongming's sect leader and Yi Xian wasn't pleasant. This also meant that they still had a chance. Sect leader, please come in. In the next moment, Fatso Huang appeared again. This also caused sect leader Dark North to walk out with large strides. Behind him were two supreme elders. The three of them entered the mountain gate to pay a visit to Yi Xian on Snow Bamboo Peak. Ha ha ha, I've long heard that sect leader Yi is young and promising. Today, I see that you're indeed extraordinary. If sect leader Yi is willing to be friends with me, then our two sects will help each other in the future. This vast northern starfield will also be ruled by our two sections. Sect leader Dark North strode over, exuding a graceful and magnanimous aura. Greetings, sect leader Yi. The two supreme elders of Dark North sect bowed to Yi Xian. These two were sempiternal realm experts who had opened the second gate of heaven. Moreover, they were only one step away from opening the third gate of heaven. At this moment, however, they were extremely humble. Fellow Taoists, please get up. This Yi is not worthy of such great courtesy. Yi Xian enthusiastically helped the two supreme elders up. This also caused sect leader Dark North's eyes to light up. He could tell from Yi Xian's affectionate attitude that Yi Xian had. He was secretly delighted. As long as Yi Xian was willing to advance and retreat together with Dark North sect, they would be invincible in this war between the three great sections. Chapter 1465. Sect Master Yi, let's not beat around the bush. I'm sure fellow Taoist knows why I've been waiting here. As long as fellow Taoist is willing to help my Dark North sect overcome this crisis, fellow Taoist can set any conditions. It had to be said that compared to Dark North sect master, Dark North sect master was indeed much more graceful and magnanimous. He didn't waste time talking nonsense and directly stated his purpose. Fellow Taoist Dark North is really straightforward. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. Although he had almost died in the hands of Dark North sect master was indeed very magnanimous. This saved him a lot of trouble. Sect Master Yi, this spatial ring contains many saint items. It is also a gift for fellow Taoist in your sect. If my Dark North sect can overcome this crisis, I will definitely prepare a generous gift to thank fellow Taoist. Dark North sect master took off a ring from his finger and directly threw it at Yi Xian. As Yi Xian received the spatial ring and examined it, even Yi Xian's calm temperament was slightly shaken. This was because the spatial ring was filled with holy treasures. Although it was only half of the treasures he had requested from Tongming cult, it was still something that was placed right in front of him. This was much more shocking than Tongming cult's empty promise. From this, it could be seen that Dark North sect had indeed reached a dead end. These things were almost half of Dark North sect's wealth. Fellow Taoist is really forthright. Yi Xian accepted the spatial ring, allowing Dark North sect master to secretly breathe a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Yi Xian wouldn't accept it, and would instead secretly reach some kind of agreement with Dark North sect. Now it seemed that there was still a great chance for a turnaround. Although fellow Taoist is very generous, fellow Taoist Dark North sect master has promised to give me twice the cultivation resources of your sect. This really makes things difficult for me. Yi Xian pretended to be hesitant. Dark North sect master's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect Dark North sect master to put in so much effort. However, he was already prepared and said, Sect Master Yi, rest assured. Whatever Dark North sect master can give, my Dark North sect will naturally not be less than Dark North sect master. Moreover, I'm willing to give fellow Taoist the Dark North heavenly scripture. What do you think? Sect leader, you can't. The two supreme elders' expressions changed instantly. They never thought that the Dark North hierarch would actually give the hierarch's legacy to Yi Xian. This was simply unacceptable. It should be known that apart from the immortal realm, the foundation of a sect was the sect guarding method. The fact that it could be the sect guarding method indicated that this kind of method was extremely terrifying. Although it was not as powerful as the supreme method, it was extremely powerful in the entire chaotic world. It's our honor to have a friend like Hierarch Yi with the Northern Underworld Heavenly Scripture. Don't say anything. Hierarch North Underworld pretended to reprimand them. As the old saying went, one would never slap a smiling face. Additionally, Dark North Hierarch had lowered himself and offered such a great offer. If it were anyone else, they would feel too embarrassed to turn him down. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was definitely not one of them. He was a very greedy person, and wouldn't be satisfied until he squeezed the three powers dry. Forget about the Northern Underworld Heavenly Scripture, but I really admire the heaven-breaking cauldron of your sect. If you can let me meditate on it for a few days, I don't need these cultivation resources. Yi Xian pretended to be casual. However, as soon as Yi Xian finished speaking, the smile on Dark North Hierarch's face suddenly disappeared. His eyes instantly became gloomy, and then disappeared again in an instant. You must be joking. We don't have the heaven-breaking cauldron at all. If we did have such a legendary treasure of the chaos, how could they bully us? Dark North Hierarch would never admit that the heaven-breaking cauldron was in his hands. After all, the war between the three powers for 100,000 years did not make him compromise. Even if he came to Yi Xian today, he would not reveal any information about the heaven-breaking cauldron. Ha ha ha. Yi Xian laughed and said, I'm just joking with you. Please don't take it to heart. In fact, it's very easy for the Northern Region Celestial Court to help you. As long as you agree to one more condition, the alliance between our two sects will naturally be easy. No matter what it is, just say it. As long as we can do it, we won't refuse. Dark North Hierarch said firmly. 1 month later, I want to see the Saintess head. In the next moment, Yi Xian coldly spoke. This caused the Dark North sect leader and the two supreme elders to be stunned on the spot. They looked at Yi Xian with bewilderment. They didn't know why Yi Xian would raise such a condition. Yi Daoyu, it's not that I don't want to agree, but the Saintess is also in existence who opened the third gate. If we could kill her, we would have done it long ago. Why would we need you to mention it? Dark North Hierarch was speaking the truth. Dark North Hierarch had started the war between the three powers. The two powers could be said to be irreconcilable. Under the joint attack of Dark North Hierarch and the Saintess, he almost died in their hands. If the two supreme elders didn't arrive in time, he would have suffered a great calamity. How could Dark North Hierarch not want to kill the Saintess? However, it was extremely difficult to kill an existence who opened the third gate. Otherwise, the war between the three powers wouldn't have lasted for 100,000 years. Don't worry, I'll tell you everything. Yi Xian smiled eerily. A cloud of smoke covered the snow bamboo peak. No one knew what Yi Xian and Dark North Hierarch were talking about. After 2 hours, Dark North Hierarch left with the two supreme elders. Mister, are you sure there won't be a problem? Fatso Huang asked worriedly. Yi Xian's plan was too risky. Moreover, it was playing with fire. One wrong step could put him in danger. Don't worry, Dark North Hierarch has the heaven-breaking cauldron. They are already in a desperate situation, and can only choose to cooperate with me. Yi Xian smiled with a profound glint in his eyes. The Northern Nether sect and the Goddess sect had irreconcilable conflicts, and this conflict was the heaven-shattering cauldron. The Northern Nether sect would definitely not hand it over, and there was no room for negotiation with the two sects regarding the heaven-shattering cauldron. This was Yi Xian's opportunity. Soon, the fairy hierarch arrived at the snow bamboo peak under the lead of Fatso Huang. One had to admit that she was truly beautiful. She had a noble and cold temperament. She was definitely a peerless beauty in the entire northern region. Moreover, she was the fairy hierarch. The combination of the two made her even more imposing. Hierarchy. The fairy hierarch walked over and nodded at Yi Xian as a form of greeting. I have always heard that fairy hierarch is the #1 beauty in the northern region. Your 8 laws of mysterious heaven is world-shaking. I also heard that among the 3 great hierarchs, fellow Taoist is stronger than the other 2. Today, I see that you are indeed worthy of your reputation. With just a glance, Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at the fairy hierarch with a heavy glint in his eyes. If the cultivation of the sect leader and the Dark North sect leader were on par, then Yi Xian would be able to see through them. However, The sect leader in front of him caused Yi Xian's heart to sink slightly. Half a step. Just half a step. This heavenly woman sect master was actually just half a step away from opening the fourth heavenly gate. Chapter 1466. The two sect masters had only opened the third heaven gate, but this fairy sect master's aura was hidden. Even though she didn't reveal any power, he still felt a faint sense of pressure from her. Yi Xian was very sure that this fairy sect master was only half a step away from opening the fourth heaven gate. Even the two sect masters wouldn't be her match. Even Yi Xian was astonished that a woman could be so powerful. He originally thought that the fairy sect master's cultivation was only on par with the two sect masters. But now, Yi Xian knew that he was gravely mistaken. I only want to ask you, has Crimson Lotus joined your northern celestial court? The fairy sect master coldly spoke, and looked down at Yi Xian with a condescending attitude. She didn't mention anything about the war between the three sects, and instead asked about Crimson Lotus Demoness. This woman was not simple. In the next moment, Yi Xian immediately made a judgment, and threw away his plan to deal with the fairy sect master. This was because he didn't see any pleading or humility in her eyes. It was as if the war between the three sects didn't matter to her. Crimson Lotus Demoness has indeed joined my northern celestial court. Dao friend, why are you asking this? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and asked, call her out to see me. The fairy sect master coldly spoke, as if she was giving an order to Yi Xian. I'm very curious. You don't care about the war between the three sects, but instead care about Crimson Lotus. Are you not afraid that you won't be able to obtain the heaven-shattering cauldron? Yi Xian indifferently asked. The chaotic universe, 12 periods. Legend has it that the heaven-shattering cauldron can allow one to become the strongest throughout the ages. This fairy sect master naturally wants it, but only those who are fated to obtain it. Moreover, whether it is in the Dark North sect or not is only a rumor. Even if the Dark North sect really does have it, they haven't done anything after so many years. This also means that the heaven-shattering cauldron isn't that easy to comprehend. The fairy sect leader spoke calmly. She then scrutinized Yi Xian and said, you are a scheming person. You might be able to deceive Tongming and Baiming, but I advise you not to use any tricks in front of me. Your aptitude isn't bad, but you managed to kill an immortal at the Dao integration realm. Your future is limitless. Even in the Grand Central Territory, you would be considered a heaven-defying genius. However, I have to advise you that only by being strong yourself can you achieve eternity. Scheming and plotting are just unorthodox methods. This will also affect your future cultivation until you become mediocre, the fairy sect leader said. What a great goddess sect mistress. At the next moment, Yi Xian praised. This was because what the goddess sect leader had said happened to coincide with his belief. However, everything he had done was for the sake of obtaining the heaven-shattering cauldron and breaking through to the immortal realm. It was different from what the goddess sect leader had said. However, the goddess sect leader had indeed caused Yi Xian to have a whole new level of respect for her. Just these words alone proved why the goddess sect leader was about to open the fourth heaven gate. This kind of woman was indeed terrifyingly powerful and calm. She could be considered the strongest opponent he'd encountered in the northern region. Fortunately, the goddess sect leader hadn't opened the fourth heaven gate yet. Otherwise, if she opened the fourth heaven gate, Yi Xian would really have a headache. After all, any scheme or trick was nothing in the face of absolute power. Go and summon Qi Lian. Yi Xian waved his hand. Fatso Huang quietly left and returned shortly after with Qi Lian She-Devil following closely behind. Hong Wan, do you still remember me? When Qi Lian She-Devil arrived at the Snow Bamboo Peak, the goddess sect leader coldly berated her. This instantly made Qi Lian She-Devil turn pale. Her knees went soft and she almost knelt on the ground. Marshal Aunt Qing Shua. Qi Lian She-Devil spoke with a trembling voice. She subconsciously prostrated on the ground. Get up. Suddenly, without waiting for the Scarlet Witch to kneel, Yi Xian's sleeves fluttered as he stopped the Scarlet Witch from kneeling. This also caused the Scarlet Witch to instantly wake up. She quickly arrived behind Yi Xian and looked at the goddess sect leader, with eyes filled with reverence. This is the Northern Celestial Court, not your goddess sect. Moreover, Qi Lian is already a member of my Northern Celestial Court. Dao friend, what is the meaning of this? Yi Xian indifferently said, Today, I am here to take Hong Wuan away. Anyone who dares to stop me will be my enemy. The goddess sect leader strode forward. Although she was a woman, she didn't lose the domineering aura of a hero. Even though this was a crucial moment in the war between the three sects, she didn't put Yi Xian in her eyes. Vile disciple, come here. The goddess sect leader coldly berated. Her slender fingers reached towards Qi Lian She-Devil. The winds and clouds in this area surged as a terrifying pulling force acted on Qi Lian She-Devil. Sect leader, save me. Qi Lian She-Devil cried out in fear. She had no way of resisting against the goddess sect leader, who was about to open the fourth gate. Impudent. Yi Xian's eyes turned sharp. The stone table in front of him was smashed into pieces by him. He also slammed his palm towards the goddess sect leader. That terrifying heaven burial light whistled across the world, as an extremely terrifying power was released. As the saying goes, you have to look at the owner before beating the dog. This was Yi Xian's home ground, so the goddess sect leader's impudent behavior naturally made Yi Xian unhappy. Bang! The mountains and rivers exploded, and the void exploded. The two of them clashed, causing the mountains and rivers to tremble. The entire snow bamboo peak was collapsing. If it wasn't for the protection of the mountain-protecting Grand Formation, the snow bamboo peak would have been destroyed by the two of them. You dare to stop me? The goddess sect leader coldly shouted. Her slender fingers danced in the sky. That resplendent radiance illuminated the void. A 100,000 feet tall goddess Dharma body spanned across the heaven and earth. Its boundless power suppressed the entire world. Change. Yi Xian formed hand seals, and also executed his transcendence world. He directly confronted the goddess sect leader in the void. The heaven burial art circulated violently in Yi Xian's body, causing a destructive power to ripple through the mountains and rivers. If you had really opened the fourth gate, I might still be a little afraid. Unfortunately, you are still stuck at the third gate. You don't have the right to be impudent in my northern region celestial court, Yi Xian said coldly. You are courting death. Rumble. The goddess sect leader executed her immortal great art, and the sky dimmed down. The stars in outer space flickered, and as she pointed out with her finger, the stars fell from the sky, forming a terrifying scene of stars falling to the ground. The terrifying rumbles shook the heaven and earth, as though the world was going to be destroyed. One had to admit that the goddess sect leader was terrifyingly powerful. She was already half a step into the fourth gate, and had even comprehended some of its profundities. Every move of hers contained immense power. Attack! Boom! Facing the goddess sect leader's attack, Yi Xian directly activated the attack character technique. He also activated the Calamity Immortal transformation, instantly raising his strength to the limit. He swung his fists and punched out in a terrifying manner. Streaks of fist light that could destroy the heavens and earth rose into the sky, actually intending to forcefully resist the great technique unleashed by the goddess sect leader. Chapter 1467. Bang! Bang! The heavens and the earth shook as the world exploded. The fist light that went against the heavens and the earth illuminated the sky, creating hundreds of beautiful sceneries. The stars that fell from the sky were all turned into ashes by Yi Xian's fist light. Let's see how capable you are. Boom! Yi Xian took a step forward, and the heaven-punishing halberd appeared in his hand. He wore the Nirvana battle armor, and the heaven-burying radiance revolved around him. Even the chaotic 12 Yuanhui worlds, that he hadn't used for a long time, appeared. Let's fight! At this moment, Yi Xian's essence, energy, and spirit were at their peak. He even erupted with all of his strength as he charged towards the goddess sect leader. This was because he really wanted to see if he could fight against an expert like the goddess sect leader with all of his strength. Goddess of Shock. The goddess sect leader's expression changed slightly. She wore a pair of silver-white gloves on her hands, and the resplendent treasure light was extremely dazzling. It was obvious that this was her protective weapon. Her jade-like hands directly smashed towards Yi Xian. Clang! 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 The halberd swept across the sky and destroyed the world. Yi Xian thrust the heaven-punishing halberd forward. The goddess sect leader didn't fall into a disadvantageous position and continued to counterattack. It was unknown what the silver-white gloves were made of, but they weren't damaged at all. Bang! Bang! Following two muffled sounds, Yi Xian's halberd landed on the goddess sect leader's shoulder, while the goddess sect leader's palm landed on Yi Xian's body. Both of them were sent flying at the same time. No one knew who won or lost. Boom! At the same time, both of them were sent flying back. However, before they could continue fighting, Scarlet Witch appeared in front of them and knelt down before the goddess sect leader. Martial Ant Qingxue, stop fighting. I'll go back with you, Scarlet Witch said with a pale face. No one knew her martial ant better than Scarlet Serpent Witch. Her martial ant Qingxue was known as the person with the strongest aptitude in the history of the goddess sect. Furthermore, she had a domineering temperament, and no one could go against her will. Hong Wan, I have been giving you chances, but look at what you've done all these years. For that man, you betrayed your sect and even killed Senior Sister. If it weren't for the fact that Senior Sister wanted me to spare your life, how could you have survived until now? The fairy sect leader's expression was cold and intimidating. Her gaze toward Scarlet, which was filled with disappointment. Martial Ant Hong Wan was wrong. At the mention of her teacher, Scarlet Serpent Witch's eyes turned red. She couldn't stop her tears from falling down, and kept on kowtowing to the goddess sect leader to beg for forgiveness. You killed your own master, fellow disciples, and betrayed our sect. Each of these crimes is enough for you to die thousands of times. But you did it just for a man. Do you know that this isn't just a disgrace to you, but also the greatest disgrace to our goddess sect in history? The fairy sect leader shouted angrily and raised her 5 fingers. She couldn't wait to kill the Scarlet Serpent Demoness on the spot. Martial Ant, please kill me. Scarlet Witch raised her head. Her eyes had lost all signs of life. She only wished for death. Huff! The goddess sect master lowered her 5 fingers and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. The killing intent on her body also dissipated. I won't kill you because I promised Senior Sister to let you live. However, you have to pay for the sins you've committed and the humiliation you've brought to the goddess sect. I will personally suppress you under the goddess mountain and make you repent for your sins for eternity. Chi! A golden rope shot out from her hand and instantly bound Scarlet Serpent Witch. However, the goddess sect leader's eyes dimmed. Back then, she loved this martial niece of hers the most in the goddess sect. However, Scarlet Serpent Witch had committed a grave mistake, and she had to atone for it. Boom! The goddess sect leader didn't even look at Yi Xian. She was about to leave with Scarlet Witch. However, before she could do anything, Yi Xian quietly blocked her way. Fellow Taoist Yi, I have to say that you're able to contend with me when you're only in the Tao integration realm. This really does shock me. Not to mention the northern region. Even in the Grand Central region, people like you are as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. You're completely capable of competing for the title of strongest of all ages in the next Yuanhui. I don't want to offend someone like you. When you step into the immortal realm, I won't be your match either. However, you're not my match now. This is a family matter of my sect. I hope you won't interfere. The goddess sect doesn't want to have a grudge with someone like you. The goddess sect leader frowned. This was the first time in her life that she had lowered her stance. Yi Xian had given her too much shock. Yi Xian wasn't someone she could offend. If she really offended Yi Xian, she would definitely be punished in the future. This wasn't something she wanted to see. However, she had to take Scarlet Witch away. This was related to the reputation of the goddess sect, and the last request she made to her senior sister. You're a soft-hearted person. I think you just want to save Scarlet Witch, right? Yi Xian put away his halberd and the Nirvana armor. His aura gradually dissipated as he looked at the goddess sect leader with a profound gaze. Tao friend, what are you trying to say? The goddess sect leader was startled, but she pretended to be calm. The war between the 3 sects will affect a lot of places. You want to bring Scarlet Witch back to the goddess sect, because you don't want her to be involved in this conflict. You're even more afraid that she will die because of this war. Yi Xian spoke frankly. He paused for a moment before continuing. Speaking of which, it's a bit laughable. With fellow Taoists' cultivation, it's almost impossible for her to meet a match in the northern region. If you really wanted to capture Qi Lian back to the goddess sect, she wouldn't have been able to escape for so many years. However, you're worried about the reputation of the goddess sect, so you issued a kill order for Scarlet Witch. This is also a show for outsiders. In fact, you've always been concerned about Scarlet Witch. Am I right? The goddess sect leader had a complicated expression after hearing Yi Xian's words. However, she still nodded. Dao friend is right, but so what? I can promise you that I will take Qi Lian away, but the humiliation of the goddess sect is still there. Don't tell me that you don't want to wash away this humiliation? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Dao friend, what do you mean? The goddess sect leader didn't understand. I once asked Scarlet Witch about what happened back then. She killed her master and stole the scriptures for that man. She even slaughtered many of her fellow disciples before rebelling against the goddess sect. However, she was bewitched by that man back then, so she did such a crazy thing. By the time she woke up, it was already too late. All of this was caused by that man who bewitched her. So that man is the real source. If he didn't plant a bewitching spell on Qi Lian, none of this would have happened. Don't tell me that fellow Taoist doesn't want to find this man? Yi Xian said in a low voice. You know where he is? The goddess sect leader asked in shock. Extremely cold killing intent flashed across her eyes. How could she not know the secret from back then? She had been investigating that man all these years, but she couldn't find any clues at all. If he didn't bewitch Scarlet Witch, she wouldn't have ended up like this, and the goddess sect wouldn't have been humiliated. Thus, only by killing this man would she be able to wash away the shame of the goddess sect. This was not only Scarlet Witch's obsession, but also the goddess sect leaders. I naturally know who he is, but his identity isn't ordinary. I wonder if Dao friend is willing to work with me? Yi Xian had a strange smile on his face. Who is he? Almost at the same time, the Celestial Maiden sect leader and the Scarlet Witch asked in unison. Their venomous and hateful gazes caused Yi Xian's heart to tremble. If this woman hated a man, she could do anything. Let me tell you slowly. A layer of mist covered the peak, so only the three of them could hear Yi Xian's voice. Half a day later, the clouds and mist dissipated. The goddess sect leader bowed to Yi Xian with a smile on her face, then turned around and left with the Scarlet Witch. No one knew what Yi Xian said to the two of them, but their eyes were filled with viciousness as they left. This was because the knot in their hearts that had been troubling them for many years would be resolved soon. A mysterious smile appeared on Yi Xian's face as he watched the goddess sect leader and Scarlet Witch leave. Everything is ready except for the east wind. This is getting more and more interesting. Yi Xian murmured. Chapter 1468. Damn it. Yi Tian, you've gone too far. Bang. Inside Tongming Palace, the Tongming sect leader slammed the table in front of him into pieces. His eyes were so vicious that it seemed as if he wanted to eat someone alive. Anyone who looked at him would feel a chill run down their spine. Senior brother, control your emotions. Tongming Saintess reminded. Control? How? Tongming sect master raged. Yi Tian, that brat has gone too far. He doesn't put you and me in his eyes at all. Instead, he wants all of our assets. If I don't skin him alive, I won't be able to get rid of the hatred in my heart. Tongming's heart was about to explode from anger, and his entire body was in an extremely berserk state. To think that he, the dignified sect master of a generation, was actually humiliated by Yi Xian in such a manner. How could he not hate him to the extreme? People have no choice but to lower their heads when they're under someone else's roof. Now is the crucial moment of the battle between the three sections. No matter what, we have to endure it. Once we get the heaven-shattering cauldron, it won't be too late to settle the score with this brat, Tongming Saintess said. Junior sister, can't you tell? This brat is an ambitious wolf. Even if I give him everything he wants, I'm afraid that he will backstab us in the back. Tongming's sect master said in a sinister voice. If giving all of Tongming's sect's assets to Yi Xian was enough to destroy the two sects, Tongming's sect master would definitely fulfill his promise. However, Tongming's sect master could see that Yi Xian was not a kind person. How could he sincerely help Tongming's sect? He probably wanted to sit on the mountain and watch the tiger show its head. He was planning to scheme against the heaven-shattering cauldron. No one was a fool, and Tongming's sect master was not one. The news of the heaven-shattering cauldron was sent by Yi Xian. If Yi Xian did not have any ulterior motives, Tongming's sect master would not believe it, even if he was beaten to death. Tongming's sect master was well aware that Yi Xian was the one who instigated the war between the three sections. From the beginning, he knew that it was Yi Xian's scheme, but he still initiated the war between the three sections. This was because the heavenly shattering cauldron was indeed in the hands of the North Dark sect. This was an indisputable fact. Even though he knew that Yi Xian was instigating a war between the three sects to give the northern region celestial court a chance to rise, Tongming tacitly allowed it. This was Yi Xian's naked scheme. However, it now seemed that Yi Xian's appetite was too big. Not only did he want all of the dark cult's assets, but he also wanted to meet the other two great cult's masters. And he also wanted to set out the same conditions. Senior brother, you are right. This person is ambitious and scheming. I am really afraid that we will only benefit him. Tongming Saintis said. This Yi Tian is already powerful. We can't let him continue to grow. I think we should have a good talk with the North Dark sect and Fairy sect. Tongming's sect master pondered for a long time, and finally made a decision in his heart. Senior brother, what do you mean? Tongming Saintis's beautiful eyes lit up. Kill Yi Xian first and destroy his northern region celestial court. I believe the Fairy sect and North Dark sect also have the same idea. However, the three sects have been in a deadlock for a long time. This is why that brat Yi Xian is free and unfettered until now. Instead, he is restricting us. Tongming's sect master said viciously. But senior brother, without the help of Yi Tian's northern region celestial court, how are we going to obtain the heavenly shattering cauldron? Tongming Saintis frowned. Don't worry. I have never placed my hopes on that brat Yi Tian. I have already sent a message to someone. He is on his way. As long as that person arrives, with the three of us working together, we can definitely obtain the heavenly shattering cauldron. Tongming's sect master said confidently. Senior brother, who did you invite? Tongming Saintis was startled. Old Devil Bei Mang. Tongming's sect master spoke word by word. However, when the Saintess heard his words, her body trembled. Her beautiful eyes under the black veil were filled with shock. Senior brother, are you crazy? You actually want to cooperate with that ancient devil? Don't you know that old Devil Bei Mang doesn't recognize anyone? If he betrays us, we will be attacked from both sides. Tongming Saintis refuted. Junior sister, you are overthinking. Although old Devil Bei Mang is sinister and cunning, he is also extremely greedy. Although I have told him about the heavenly shattering cauldron, I am only using him to deal with the fairy sect master. With his help we can definitely obtain the heavenly shattering cauldron. Tongming sect master said in a low voice. Senior brother, you are asking a tiger for its skin. Don't forget what happened to Nine Mountains' loose cultivator. Tongming Saintis said in a deep voice. Tongming sect master's expression changed when Nine Mountain and the other two were mentioned. This was because Nine Mountains' loose cultivator was defeated by old Devil Bei Mang. Even his source world was destroyed. Moreover, Nine Mountains' loose cultivator was an existence that opened the third gate of heaven. From this, one could see how terrifying old Devil Bei Mang was. We can't care so much now. We can only stake everything on this one throw. However, before old Devil Bei Mang arrives, we should ease the situation between the three sects and join forces with the other two sects to destroy that brat Yi Tian and his celestial court. Only then can we get rid of any worries. Tongming sect master said in a sinister voice. All right. Tongming Saintis nodded slowly. Since things had developed to this point, they could only continue. However, she was too worried about old Devil Bei Mang. This person was someone that even the three sects were afraid of. Indeed, old Devil Bei Meng was alone. However, he was able to rampage freely in the northern region. This was definitely related to his cultivation base. However, it was more because he had no taboos. Even if the three sects encountered him, he would still dare to kill them. On the other hand, the three sects did not dare to offend him. After all, he was alone. Moreover, he was a terrifying existence that opened the third gate of heaven. All along, the three sects had turned a blind eye to old Devil Bei Meng. However, Tongming sect master had told him about the heaven-shattering cauldron, and even cooperated with him. This was no different from asking a tiger for its skin. 3 days later, Little Cold Mountain, Tongming sect master and Tongming saintess sat cross-legged on the mountain peak, as if they were waiting for someone to arrive. After an incense stick's worth of time, ripples appeared in the void. Several figures quietly appeared on the mountain peak. They were Sect Master Bei Meng, Fairy Sect Master, and the others. The Dark North Sect Master was handsome, and the 2 Grand Elders followed behind him. The Fairy Sect Master was still alone, and when they arrived, the Dark North Sect Master and the Grand Elders slowly stood up, and a smile appeared on their faces. Fellow Taoists are indeed punctual. Tongming Sect Master cupped his fists and greeted the 2 Sect Masters. Cut the crap. Why did you ask us to come here? Sect Master Bei Meng's expression was cold. He did not give Tongming Sect Master any face at all. After all, the war between the 3 sects was initiated by Tongming Sect Master. The war between the 3 sects that had lasted for 100,000 years had caused great losses to Dark North Sect. Our 3 sects are not friends. Are you trying to play some tricks by asking us to come here together? Fairy Sect Master said coldly. Chapter 1469. Ha ha ha. Tongming Sect Master laughed loudly and said, Fellow Taoists, there is no need to be so hostile. Although we have always been at odds with each other, we can be considered old friends. Today, I invited you 2 here, because I have something to discuss with you 2. Speak. Dark North Sect Leader said coldly. Tongming Sect Leader didn't mind the cold expression of the 2 sect leaders. He coughed lightly and said, Fellow Taoists, let's not beat around the bush. I'll get straight to the point. That brat Yi Tian instigated a war between our 3 sections. He wants to be the fisherman who benefits in the end. He even threatened my Tongming sect to give him all our assets. I believe you 2 have the same experience as me, right? Tongming sect leader said solemnly. So what? Dark North sect leader narrowed his eyes. Dark North, do you know that the information about the heavenly shattering cauldron was given to me by that brat Yi Tian? His intentions are terrible. He wants to instigate a war between our 3 sections. This way, his orthodoxy won't be annihilated by our 3 sections. He wants to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. He wants all 3 of us to suffer. In the end, he'll be the only one who benefits. Tongming sect leader pretended to be angry. What are you trying to say? The Fairy sect leader said slowly. Tongming sect leader was delighted when he saw that the 2 sect leaders had calmed down. He took a step forward and said, Fellow Taoists, although our 3 sects are enemies, we're not fools. If we fight to the death, and let that brat Yi Tian reap the benefits, I don't think you 2 would want to see that happen, right? You want to join forces with us to kill Yi Tian, and destroy his northern region celestial court? Dark North sect leader said. That's right. Tongming sect leader said hatefully. That brat Yi Tian is too much. Our 3 sects have been fighting for many years. He wants to take advantage of the chaos to threaten us. Why don't we kill him together? After that, our 3 sects will fight with our own strength. It's better than letting him take advantage of us, right? Good idea. I have the same idea. Dark North sect leader nodded slowly. This Yi Tian is indeed cunning. Killing him first will remove the hidden danger of our 3 sections. The Fairy sect leader nodded in agreement. Tongming was overjoyed when he heard the 2 sect leaders' words. He was afraid that the 2 sect leaders would reject him. However, it seemed like he was overthinking things. All right. With the 4 of us who have opened the 3rd gate of heaven, we will be able to destroy the northern region celestial court in less than an incense's worth of time. That Yi Xian should also be killed on the spot. Sage Tongming said coldly. This Yi Tian is too stupid. He actually wants to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Let's kill him first. That way we can get rid of the hidden danger of our 3 sections. Dark North sect leader agreed. Fellow Taoists, let's set off. Tongming sect master laughed heartily. He never thought that things would go so smoothly. And this made him so excited that he spoke. A streak of rainbow light appeared beneath his feet as he soared into the sky. Clearly, he was going to charge towards the northern region celestial court and grind Yi Xian's bones into dust. Rumble! Dark North Hierarch brought the 2 Grand Elders and rose into the sky. Goddess Sect Leader also rose into the sky. Tongming Saintess also rose into the sky. However, Dark North Hierarch and the other 2 Grand Elders kept Tongming Saintess and Dark North Hierarch apart. The entire process was very natural. Fellow Taoists, after we kill that brat Yi Tian, Tongming Sect Leader said excitedly. However, before he could finish his words, the following scene caused him to be completely shocked and enraged. Die! Rumble! An earth-shattering killing intent rang out from Dark North Sect Leader's mouth. A great art of cold heaven shot out from his hand, targeting the defenseless Sage Tongming Sect Leader. Moreover, this was not the end. The 2 sect leaders also attacked the Sage Tongming Sect Leader. It could be said that they had used all their cultivation. The combined attack of 3 Immortal Realm experts was terrifying to the extreme. You dare! Tongming Sect Leader roared furiously. However, it was already too late for him to save the Sage Tongming Sect Leader. Bang! Wah! Heaven and earth exploded. The combined attack of 3 Immortal Realm experts landed on the Sage Tongming Sect Leader. If she had been prepared, it would have been fine. However, she did not expect the 3 sect leaders to launch a sneak attack on her. Even though she had opened her 3rd gate of heaven, facing the combined attack of 3 Immortal Realm experts, it still caused her to spit out a mouthful of blood. A piercing sound of bones breaking could be heard from her chest. Junior sister? Tongming Sect Leader's eyes were bloodshot as he charged madly towards the 3 sect leaders. However, Dark North Sect Leader was already prepared. He also sent a palm strike towards Tongming Sect Leader. Both of their cultivation bases were about the same. After this exchange, both of them were pushed back. However, the ice mountain beneath their feet was reduced to dust. Kill her! Dark North Sect Leader roared. The 2 sect leaders' faces were ferocious as they charged madly towards the Sage Tongming Sect Leader. Dark North Sect Leader, you dog! You dare to scheme against me? Tongming Sect Leader roared furiously. He had not expected Dark North Sect Leader to be even more cunning than him. He had actually launched a sneak attack on the Sage Tongming Sect Leader. Rumble! Tongming Sect Leader exploded with a dark light, causing the entire sky to change color. His eyes were bloodshot as he engaged in a fierce battle with Dark North Sect Leader. However, on the other side, the Sage Tongming Sect Leader was in an extremely wretched state. She was bitterly defending against the attacks of the 2 sect leaders. If she had not suffered the combined attack of the 3 undying beings, with her 3rd gate of heaven cultivation base, it would be easy for her to fight against the 2 sect leaders. Even killing them would not be a problem. However, she had suffered the combined attack of the 3 undying beings, causing her to lose half of her life. If not for her cultivation base being extremely strong, the combined attack of the 3 undying beings would have taken her life. However, she was in a very passive state now. She was constantly coughing out blood, and her body was filled with cracks. Even her soul within her sea of consciousness was in intense pain. If this continued, even if the 2 sect leaders did not kill her, she would be killed by her own injuries. Wanna kill me? You guys are still too early. The Sage Tongming Sect Leader roared as she coughed out a mouthful of blood. Her entire body was covered in blood mist, as she actually used the blood escape technique to escape. As someone who had opened the 3rd gate of heaven, the Sage Tongming Sect Leader naturally had a life-saving trump card. This blood escape technique was extremely powerful. Although it would exhaust her cultivation base, it would definitely save her life. Seeing his junior sister use the blood escape technique, Tongming Sect Leader finally heaved a sigh of relief. He angrily attacked Dark North Sect Leader. and wanted to meet up with the sage Tongming sect leader and leave this place first. However, before he could do anything, the following scene caused him to be completely terrified. An indescribable fear grew in his heart. Rumble! 5 jade-like fingers landed on the sage Tongming sect leader's head, directly shattering the blood escape technique she had just used. The goddess sect leader silently appeared beside the sage Tongming sect leader. Her expression was calm and cold. Seal! How strong was the goddess sect leader? She was stronger than the 2 sect leaders, and was only half a step away from opening the 4th gate of heaven. Her attack suppressed the sage Tongming sect leader, and sealed her victory. Chapter 1470. Fellow Taoist Holy Maiden. What are you doing? Tongming roared in fear. He looked at goddess sect leader with fear, then turned to Dark North sect leader, with a sudden realization. A horrifying thought appeared in his mind. Could it be that the 2 of them had planned this from the start? They wanted to eliminate the Saintess first, and deal a heavy blow to my Tongming sect's strength? Tongming, you are truly foolish. Our 3 sects are like fire and water. How can I work with you to offend Yi Tian? Dark North sect leader sneered. Fellow Taoist Holy Maiden, after killing this bitch, you and I will work together to kill Tongming and destroy the entire Tongming sect. From then on, our 2 sects will be the only ones in the northern region. Dark North sect leader said excitedly. Unfortunately, the Holy Maiden sect leader only glanced at Dark North sect leader and Tongming sect leader before disappearing with the Saintess. Damn it! Tongming sect leader roared. What was this woman thinking? Could it be that she had made some kind of deal with Yi Tian? Dark North sect leader immediately calmed down. His heart trembled as a bad feeling rose in his heart. Dark North sect leader had made a deal with Yi Xian to kill the Saintess. Yi Xian had also said that someone would help him at the critical moment. He didn't expect that person to be the Holy Maiden sect leader. Clearly, this Holy Maiden sect leader had also made some kind of deal with Yi Xian. Dark North sect leader was very confident in his judgment. However, today's matter made Dark North sect leader feel a chill in his heart. He was even more afraid of Yi Xian. No, this Yi Tian is too cunning. It is as if everything is under his control. He actually treated the 3 of us as chess pieces. This person cannot be underestimated. At this moment, Dark North sect leader was no longer in the mood to pay attention to Tongming sect leader. His heart was extremely heavy. He vaguely guessed that Yi Xian also wanted the heaven-shattering cauldron. Dark North, I will remember today's matter. If I don't take revenge, I am not a man. Tongming sect leader roared with hatred and directly fled. After all, Dark North sect leader still had 2 supreme elders by his side. He naturally didn't dare to stay for long in a situation where the enemy was strong. Go! The Dark North hierarch's face was grim. He called out to the 2 high elders and left as well. However, he could already sense that Yi Xian was an extremely dangerous person, and was thinking about how to deal with him. Snow Bamboo Peak. Bang! With a loud bang, the Saintess smashed into the ground, coughing out a mouthful of blood. She was clearly dispirited. I've brought the person you want. I hope you can keep your promise. The goddess sect master left as quickly as she came. She took a deep look at Yi Xian before stepping out and vanishing into a stream of light. Yi Xian. As he watched the goddess sect leader leave, a smile of praise appeared on his face. Only then did he look at the Saintess, who was lying on the ground. Green ghosts come out. Yi Xian said. Taoist green ghost silently appeared beside Yi Xian. However, he stared at the Saintess with a vicious gaze. An extremely cruel and sinister smile appeared on his face. You can take revenge however you want. Even if you make her suffer a fate worse than death, it's fine. However, I want you to remember one thing. Keep her alive. She is very useful to me. Yi Xian waved his hand. Plop. Taoist green ghost knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times to Yi Xian. Sect leader's kindness, green ghost will never forget it. Alright, go. Yi Xian waved his hand. Many thanks, sect leader. Taoist green ghost slowly got up. However, his hand suddenly grabbed the Saintess' hair and pulled off her veil, revealing her peerless appearance. The Saintess Tong Ming's appearance was very beautiful. Even when compared to the goddess sect leader, she wasn't inferior. However, Yi Xian only glanced at her indifferently before losing all interest. Taoist Green Ghost's face was filled with viciousness. He grabbed the Saintess' hair and dragged her on the ground. He did not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. The two of them gradually left. "Ah no!" Miserable cries came from the distance, accompanied by the Saintess' cries. No one knew what Taoist Green Ghost did to the Saintess. However, it was obvious that it was extremely cruel. "Mister, I'm afraid that Green Ghost will kill this woman." Fatso Huang heard the commotion and came over. Even with his sinister personality, Fatso Huang's face turned pale at the sight of Taoist Green Ghost's vicious methods. Hatred can drive a person crazy. However, Green Ghost knows his limits. Since I've asked him to spare this woman's life, she should be able to live on. Yi Xian said calmly. Heis. Fatso Huang sighed. He could only pray for the Saintess to live on her own. The tragic cries lasted for 7 days. When there were no more signs of life, Taoist Green Ghost brought the Saintess back. But when Yi Xian saw the state of the Saintess, he could not help but take in a deep breath. Her flesh was mangled and her limbs were severed. This was especially the case for the Saintess' face. It had lost all semblance of a human. These 7 days of torture were worse than death for the Saintess. Kill me, please kill me. The Saintess cried out weakly. You guys can leave now. Yi Xian waved his hand, and Fatso Huang and Taoist Green Ghost left. Yi Xian bent down and frowned at the Saintess. You won't be able to live on. But there are many ways to die. I can give you a quick death. But you have to answer my questions. If you lie, I'll hand you over to Green Ghost again. What do you want to ask? The Saintess knew that she was dead for sure. She was already severely injured from the combined attack of 3 undying beings. Then she was tortured by Taoist Green Ghost. She was already in a state of death. The Saintess was filled with hatred. She could not wait to kill Yi Xian. She hated Tong Ming even more. Why did he invite the other 2 sect leaders? Otherwise, how could she have ended up in such a state? Without needing Yi Xian to speak, the Saintess directly told him about the situation of the underworld sect. She even mentioned that old demon Bei Meng was rushing over. Right now, she only wanted Yi Xian and the people from the 3 sects to die together. Yi Tian, so what if you're cunning? Do you think you can get the heaven-breaking cauldron with these schemes? Do you think you can wipe out the 3 sects by yourself? Stop dreaming. The 3 great sect masters are all existences that have opened the 3rd gate of heaven. That old devil Bei Meng is definitely stronger than the 3 great sect masters. I want to see how you will die when the time comes. Sage Tong Ming roared with hatred. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to see it. Yi Xian said indifferently. Do you know why I asked Green Ghost to spare your life? Actually, the reason is very simple. An immortal stage cultivator, who has opened the 3rd gate of heaven, is a great tonic in itself. If I were to kill you for nothing, wouldn't it be a waste of heaven's treasures? Yi Xian laughed evilly. Chapter 1471. What are you planning to do? Seeing the evil smile on Yi Xian's face, although the Saintess had already prepared herself for death, she still shivered and her eyes filled with fear. What am I planning to do? The evil smile on Yi Xian's face became even wider. Naturally, I'm going to swallow you. Roar. Swallow the heavens and devour the earth. Tribulation transcend or transformation. Yi Xian's eyes were fierce and terrifying. A terrifying black fog rose from his body, and he let out a fierce roar. The mysteries of the tribulation transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art were fully released. No! The Saintess screamed in horror. She finally understood that Yi Xian had cultivated the heaven-devouring demonic art. The reason he didn't kill her was because he wanted to use her as food to increase his own cultivation. Ah! The terrifying black fog submerged the Saintess. Miserable screams rang out as her flesh and blood rapidly melted away. A large amount of blood soul essence roared out, turning into a long river that rushed into Yi Xian's mouth. Yi Xian continuously swallowed it. Rumble. Yi Xian's body swelled, and his face suddenly became red. The heaven-burying technique crazily operated in his body, and an extremely powerful aura burst out. It had to be known that the saintess was an existence that had opened the third gate of heaven. Although her cultivation couldn't compare to the three sect masters, her cultivation was of unimaginable help to Yi Xian. Ka. Yi Xian's bones crackled in his aura sword. His cultivation was originally at the middle stage of the Tao integration realm, but as a muffled sound came from Yi Xian's body, his essence, energy and spirit underwent a great change. Boom! An extremely terrifying shockwave shot out in all directions with Yi Xian as the center, and the entire snow bamboo peak trembled. After swallowing the saintess blood soul essence, Yi Xian instantly stepped into the late stage of the Tao integration realm. However, Yi Xian wasn't satisfied. He wanted to reach the peak of the Tao integration realm in one go. The Tribulation Transcender technique and heaven-devouring demonic art were still fully released, and the surging blood soul essence was crazily swallowed by Yi Xian. This state lasted for half a day. Eventually, the saintess turned into a skeleton, and no more blood energy leaked out. Yi Xian spat out a mouthful of foul air. Yi Xian finally woke up from his devouring cultivation. Ai! Yi Xian let out a long sigh. Even though he had swallowed the saintess blood soul essence, he had only reached the late stage of the Tao integration realm. It was impossible for him to reach the peak of the Tao integration realm. Yi Xian frowned and muttered, "This is a sempiternal realm expert who has opened the third gate of heaven. Even though I only refined 40% of her pure energy, it only allowed me to reach the late stage of the Tao integration realm. I'm still some distance away from the peak of the Tao integration realm." Although the Tribulation Transcender technique and heaven-devouring demonic art were heaven-defying, it didn't mean that Yi Xian could absorb the entire cultivation of a person. Because everyone cultivated different cultivation techniques, there were many impurities. Yi Xian could only absorb the purest and most essential energy. He naturally couldn't absorb the rest of the impurities. This wasn't beneficial to his cultivation at all. If it was someone else who had swallowed the saintess, even if it was only 40% of her cultivation, it would be enough to step into the sempiternal realm. However, Yi Xian's potential was simply too great. His body was like a bottomless pit. The amount of energy he needed was simply incalculable. There were pros and cons to this. The good thing was that every time Yi Xian stepped into a new realm, he would be invincible in the same realm. He could even go against people of the same realm as him. This could be seen from how Yi Xian was able to fight against an immortal realm expert at the third level of the Tao-seeking realm. The bad thing was that Yi Xian's cultivation speed was extremely slow. The amount of resources he needed was simply incalculable. This was also because he had the Tribulation Transcender technique and heaven-devouring demonic art. If he didn't have these two techniques, the time he needed to cultivate would be incomparably long. Although Yi Xian wasn't satisfied with his cultivation speed, he wasn't too disappointed. After all, his cultivation had increased by another level. Moreover, killing the saintess had increased his chances of victory. Moreover, Yi Xian was certain that Tongming sect master was most likely restless right now. Losing the saintess was like breaking one of his arms. Moreover, one shouldn't forget that Yi Xian had previously told Tongming sect master that if he didn't deliver the cultivation resources he needed within a month, then Yi Xian would stand on the side of the North Dark sect and Fairy sect. At that time, Tongming sect would definitely suffer a great calamity. Tongming sect master couldn't bear such an outcome. Wait. One word, wait. Yi Xian was very patient. Everything was under his control. Now that the three sects couldn't hold on, Tongming sect master was at a disadvantage. The most anxious person was him. As for that old demon North Dark sect, Yi Xian already had a plan. 3 days later, Tongming sect master once again came to Snow Bamboo Peak. However, this time he didn't come alone. He brought 2 spatial rings with him. Within them were all the things that Yi Xian wanted. Sect Master Yi, everything is here. Half a year later, the 3 sects will have a meeting. At that time, I hope that Sect Master Yi can lend a hand to my Tongming sect. Tongming sect master bowed and lowered his posture. Many thanks for Dao friend Tongming's generosity. When the time comes, I naturally won't sit by and do nothing. Yi Xian chuckled as he put the 2 spatial rings into his bag. Tong Ming's face twitched slightly, and his eyes revealed an extremely pained expression. This was because this was the entire wealth of the Tong Ming school. Men, send the guest out. Yi Xian waved his hand. Fatso Huang personally sent Tong Ming's sect master away. There was no need to say too much, because Yi Xian knew that Tong Ming's sect master wanted nothing more than to grind his bones to dust. However, he didn't dare to fall out with him, and could only endure. Before Old Demon North Dark Sect arrived, he had to stabilize Yi Xian. This was because Tong Ming's sect master was afraid that if Yi Xian stood together with the 2 sect masters, he and Tong Ming's sect would be completely destroyed before Old Demon North Dark Sect arrived. Fortunately, this was a war between the 3 sections. Sect Master North Dark Sect and Fairy Sect Master were also enemies. This gave Tong Ming's sect master a chance to catch his breath. As long as he could stabilize Yi Xian, it wasn't too late. Everything would be decided in the meeting of the 3 sects half a year later. On this day, Sect Master North Dark Sect followed closely behind and brought a large amount of cultivation resources. They were all the treasures of North Dark Sect. He was also very respectful to Yi Xian, as if he wanted to befriend Yi Xian. However, after experiencing the matter of Tong Ming Sect's Saintis, Sect Master North Dark Sect was clearly afraid of Yi Xian. He simply talked about the meeting of the 3 sects half a year later and left. In the evening, the 3rd guest arrived at Snow Bamboo Peak. It was the strongest of the 3 sect masters, the Fairy Sect Master. Under the moonlight, the Fairy Sect Master looked at Yi Xian's back and asked, Yi Daoyu, are you sure he's the one who tricked Hong Wan? Yi Xian slowly turned around and said, There's no one else other than him. I've already given you the evidence. As long as you and I work together, not only can we kill him, but the heaven-shattering cauldron will also be ours. Okay. The Fairy Sect Master slowly nodded and said, Good. As long as we can kill him, the heaven-shattering cauldron will be shared by both our sections. From then on, there will only be my fairy sect, and your Northern Celestial Court in the Northern region. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.